Welcome back to Kevin Pollak's Chat Show. I am, as always, Chat Show. How the hell are you? It's been so long. We took Sunday off for the Freedom Celebration. That is to say, fuck the British. I believe that's how it's done in this country. Fuck the British. I have mixed feelings because my mother's father, born and raised in the UK, which makes me half British. So fuck me. I think that's what I'm really saying.
I think it makes you a quarter British.
No, you get your heritage from your mother's father and your father's father, half and half.
Oh, that's where it comes from?
In America, that's how we do it. We chop it up that way. That's how the pie works. Your mom's mother and your dad's mother, out of the equation.
Out of the equation?
Not included.
That's very, yeah, you're getting a great echo there.
I'm loving the back speakers, like in my first Honda. Quick quack.
That's very traditionally Jewish of you.
Yeah. It's
Although
annoyingly
it's
Jewish.
It's the reverse traditional Jew.
It's not Jewish.
Yeah, it's non-Jewish.
In the reverse,
right.
It's only the women.
Yeah, that's how you know you're a Jew.
That's right.
When your mother's
Jewish.
Right.
So it's very...
That's religion, though. You see, there's the difference. Religion versus nationality. No. Versus heritage, lineage. I'll be with you in a second.
Thanks for clearing that up, Kev.
I've got things to do. William and Kate in town. The Royals, Prince William, Princess Kate in Los Angeles. The last 48 hours, I and a select group of people were asked not to meet them. I think everyone but the people in this room met fucking William and Kate this weekend.
I was specifically asked to sit in a tremendous traffic jam while they moved through the West Side.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
I had dinner with the Queen.
Whoa. We'll save that for the show. I had dinner with the Queen. Question 3. Hold on. I had dinner with the Queen. I had dinner with a Queen. Is the caller there? We've been told that there is a way for those of you with a MacBook Pro to watch the streaming live show without it doing the herky-jerky. I was concerned. I had my concerns. And our crack staff, our staff on crack, Mike Rotman, got to the bottom of it. And we've put together a little video on our website. If you're watching us at kevinpollakschatshow.com, on the home page, there's a link. Yeah, we're showing it to you now, how you can find the link and get to the information your own damn self. But it's a real quick 3-step process, the tutorial of which is about 50 seconds long. It's a no-miss. I'm now watching the show on my own damn monitor without the herky-jerky. Since we made the move to HD, that's what caused the herky-jerky. And since we made the move, it's been herky-jerky every week. It's been pissing me off. And finally I said to the crack staff, get off the crack and fix this fucking problem. And guess what?
What?
Really? That's exciting. Just been told that William and Kate have been taken prisoner. I didn't realize this was a thing.
Live.
Yeah.
This is live breaking news.
How are we doing on the 2-shot? Are we live? Am I better suited to speak to the 2-shot?
Well, if you go to the 2...
If we go to the 2, we see who my guest is.
That's right.
So the
element of surprise is gone. Want to come over here and do the show next to Jamie?
I've been told that we're having difficulties with camera 1. I'm going to... there we are. Hi, how are you? Have you missed me? We've zoomed in on camera B, or 3. And so the tutorial, I assume we got through that section. For those of you with the MacBook Pro, you're now allowed to watch us live on HD without the herky-jerky. And if you missed or I discombobulated you with my brief description, just go to the site, the homepage, and there's a link for you to follow. Sam.
Hey, buddy.
How are you?
I am all healed up.
Are you?
Actually, no.
You still have some bruises?
I still have some residual bruising and ligament damage.
For those of you who are with us for the Damon Lindelof interview.
Getting closer.
Well, I don't want to say Lindelof. That's what I'm trying to avoid.
I understand.
Damon Lindelof.
That was actually
There's an E in there.
Yeah, there is. It's an E.
And I feel like if I stop for it and have a cup of coffee, then you're going to hear the letter A.
Well,
Damon Lindelof.
Just brush over it like you're trying to run across water.
I'm trying to brush over my entire life at this point. So during that interview, we shared with the folks that you and I had just come back from the Kansas City.
That is correct.
Where there was the big benefit and raised money for the Mercy Children's Hospital.
Wonderful organization.
A little over $200,000. Not bad for a weekend.
Not too shabby for a weekend.
And there was a baseball game.
Well, of sorts.
Well, For most of us, there was an exciting baseball game. For one of us, there was a tumble.
You know, I was very. I'd like to point out I did score. I did come in to score on that.
You were driven
in that
home.
Inning. I was driven home. I stole third.
Stole third.
And
without sliding.
Without sliding.
The sliding you did was into first base.
You know, it's not so much of a slide.
As much as it is.
As much as it was a tumbling.
I'll tumble for you.
What happened? What happened was before we just want to set it up very briefly.
Because we have video.
I was really trying to get to first base. I did not want to record an out, since I had struck out my first time at bat, very embarrassing.
I wasn't going to tell anyone that you were the only player all day to strike out.
I was not. There were two. One of the gals.
By only, I meant first.
Very well. But in my head, in spite of everything I know now to the contrary, from all the baseball I've watched, they say all the rookies make the mistake of you think you can get to first faster by sliding in. Totally untrue.
Yeah, keep those legs moving.
Keep those legs moving. In spite of that, still, as I was running towards first, my brain went, slide, slide, you'll beat the throw.
Hands first.
And then the rest of my body, I started to slide, and my legs came out from under me, but then the rest of my body went, no, we're just going to keep running.
Well, there's a thing called momentum.
Yeah, and I couldn't, it was, so basically my leg just stopped, and I just went tumbling, touched the bag, throw sailed wide, got to take second.
Throw sailed wide. Let's not brush over that.
I would have beaten the throw, by the way. I watched the replay many times.
Let's not brush over throw sailed wide, because what that means is no slide necessary.
I would have beaten the throw.
You could have walked, as it turns out.
Regardless.
As it turns out.
If I'd known that at the time, it wouldn't have been a fun game.
Wide. Do we have the capability of running that clip? Can we please show Sammy and the I'll tumble for you? There it is. That's a home run hit by Matt Castle shortly before the quarterback of the Kansas City Chiefs. And there it is. Oh! Lady!
Right up again, though.
And then John Oliver celebrates.
Oh! Again!
Several times.
Again! Who put this together? Who did such a... Who has this much free time on their hands?
His name is Josh Negrin, and we're very proud of the home team.
Terrible.
On behind you is what I want to know.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's
man.
pretty good, Sammy.
Thank you. Thank you very
closed.
Much. Thank you.
On a lifetime of effort. That's Sammy and how to slide into first.
Well.
Jamie.
What'd I do?
Since we saw you last, there was the whole 4th of July celebration. And are you recovered from
I'm great.
Throwing a bit of a bash at the casa?
Everything went very smoothly. I had some out-of-town guests, Juan and Kendra, who I woke up the next morning. Kendra's wiping down counters and cleaning my kitchen.
Nothing better than a house guest that cleans the next morning.
I love it.
I don't think you can ask for more.
I had a lot of help.
It's the only reason I didn't charge them rent.
No, it was bad. It was great. I had a lot of help. So it went very smoothly.
And is there a birthday shout-out you have to give today? Uh-oh. Jocelyn?
Oh, no. It's not
No! Denied. Birthday shout-out denied.
Denied.
Her birthday was like 3 weeks ago. We just happened to be having the party today.
Oh, my God. Laziest ever.
I'm not lazy.
Well, it's not. You're not throwing the birthday party.
No.
But I thought since there was a party today, we should say happy birthday, Joss, but apparently I'm an idiot. Speaking of me, weird. When we had the show last, we showed a homemade video made by the Binion family.
Not that Binion family.
We hope there's no relation. I haven't asked. I think I need to ask.
I think you do.
Because Jamie forced me to watch a bit of the Lifetime Hallmark TV movie about the death of the Binion.
Yeah. That
was Marcia Gay Harden in a supporting role is always good.
Marcia Gay Harden was amazing in this. Matthew and Modine was amazing.
Or wonderful boys. Morgan Mason, Matthew, and Modine.
Nicely done.
Thank you.
So the Binion clan put together this little video, their tribute, homage, if you will, to our efforts here. And we showed it on the show. And then they sent another one, this one involving Sammy.
I beg your pardon?
Yeah. So if we have that loaded up, let's please run the Binion family homage to the chat show.
Hello and welcome to the Kevin Pollock's Chat Show. I am Chat Show.
Oh,
we have a great...
Yeah, hit those up.
You're not buffering.
Oh, they turned it up.
We have a great show for you today. Our guest is none other than Seth Rogen. What is this? I've just been told that Seth can't be here today. Where's Sam? He booked this thing.
He called in sick. Something about sliding into first.
Jamie.
Sliding into first? Who slides into first? Oh yeah, Cubs fans.
How
I'm over Sam.
dare
With
you?
the freaks and geeks. And who tweeted? And Cubs win on Twitter. Seriously.
Who tweeted?
Come on. Seriously.
I know, right?
Sounds.
Call Quentin. Sam's not working in this town again. And as always, get out of my face.
Call Quentin.
Wow.
Call Quentin.
Call
Sam's
Quentin.
not working in this town again.
It's, you know, even the children are having at me.
Now, Sammy,
Yeah, buddy.
that's an amazing tribute and an homage.
I'm
Come on.
beyond touched.
I mean, serious work went into this. Jamie's not happy with the actress playing her.
Well, I just can't believe they did an impression of me and they didn't mention Harold Ramis.
That's true. That is weak.
Or Arby's.
Yeah.
Like, these are easy go-tos.
I know. Well, you've given them enough fodder. All right. Well, thanks to the Binion clan for that. And anytime you can embarrass Sam further, I would beg of you to do so. In the meantime, those of you who are catching up with us on the iTunes, on the lovely iTunes, from time to time over the 118th, this is 118th interview today,
Man alive.
we get the top banner on the iTunes homepage. And I think we have a screenshot loaded up. I keep moving the computer so our guests can see what's happening because the monitors are out. Is the screenshot? There it is. Look at that. We made the top, the iTunes top banner. There it is. Thank you, J-Mac. We are scrambling like crazy. One of our cameras went down, and the poor crew. And of course, I have to read a teleprompter shortly, and it's going to get bad.
It's going to get real bad.
It's going to get really bad for me. But anyways, thanks, iTunes, for the love. Upcoming guests I also want to tell you about. Allison Brie next week from the lovely Mad Men and Community fame. Michael McKean, so that we can get 3/4 of the Spinal Tap.
Love it. Great.
Yeah, to death. John Landis, very excited about that. Radio icon Phil Hendry. Now, if you're not familiar with him, get yourself familiar. This fucking dude is a brilliant genius. Sugar Ray Leonard, the champ.
him, too.
Yeah, love him to death. He'll be here August 14th,
August
I want to
14th,
say.
yep.
And then Ivan Reitman and James L. Brooks, just a couple directors
What about July 31st?
stopping by. July 31st, John Landis.
You mentioned it, right?
I mentioned John Landis, but not the date, so thank
Okay.
you. Yeah.
I'm excited for Landis.
Yeah, well, Jamie's very excited about the Landis because we discussed a run-in at the movie theater and her writing an email to
Theaters.
AMC Theaters.
Say that their theater was
The
filthy.
theater was a mess, and John Landis, bless him, had to suffer through it as well.
I'm going to pick up
He had
trash.
to pick up trash and move
that
it
wasn't
before
his.
he sat down.
That wasn't his.
It was ridiculous. I also want to thank the lovely folks at Gurin Brothers, these fine hat makers, since I'm going to say the early 1900s, probably 1950. In my hometown of San Francisco, they have a lovely store here in Smell A on Melrose. Gurin Brothers, makers of fine hats, fine chapeaus, including the one I'm wearing.
Love it.
Right?
Yes.
Samuel Jackson, eat your heart out. Kangaroo this.
It's Kangol.
I know, but I'm Homer, so I have to say it wrong. Kangol?
Tangle.
People in the chat room said this hat is a Scatman Crothers look.
A little bit of scat, man. Somebody on Twitter today said he was starting a new effort to bring back scatting. And I thought of the Scat Man.
I don't think it's ever left.
For those of us who love, well, we'll talk about it in today's show because we have a jazz aficionado, as it were. All right, so it's time for Ask Kevin. Another 44 minutes, we'll get to our guests. It's time for Ask Kevin. Of course, the teleprompter couldn't possibly be working since the camera's not, so maybe we skip Ask Kevin. I don't know. Maybe wait. Hey, there it is.
There it happened.
All right, this one from at Carnivorous, or Carnivorous. Hey, Chat Show. When we see movies about movie makers, we see actors and directors sitting on directors' chairs printed with his or her name. Is this real? Do they really make your own named chair? Follow-up question. If yes, is your garage cluttered with these from your many film endeavors? Thanks, Carnivorous in Canada. They're called backs, and you say, when you're a new actor or director, I think you probably save your first handful of backs, and you go, what the fuck am I going to do with all these? So but now I've come to signing them and giving them to charities to auction. I find that to be the best. And by charity, I mean my mom.
That's better.
She has them. Yeah, so we get them. We don't get the chairs. I think the confusion here is that you thought we got the chair.
No, I get the chair. You don't get the chair? It's in my contract. I always take the chair.
Sammy gets the chair. I keep looking at the... Sammy gets the chair. How many chairs do you have now?
16. Most of them were films I was not in.
Yeah. What's your favorite? Thank you.
Bridesmaids?
You just went to Charlie Dayville.
Bridesmaids.
You like some more water, sir?
Yeah.
Look what I got right here. Oh yeah. We're not messing around. We're not messing around at all.
What a classic.
Other than the camera not working, everything's fine. That's like the time Albert Brooks sent me a message.
This is nice.
He saw the Rob Reiner interview, and I said, "Did you like it?" He said, "Other than the sound not working the first hour, it was great." So the next ask, Kevin, that was your answer there, Canada, was that the backs and the thing. This one is from Out of Sea. Dear Kevin, I was recently saddened to find out you follow DJ Pauly D on Twitter. How did this happen? Best Mehmet. How did this happen? You go to the person's icon on Twitter, you click on it, you look for the word follow, and you click on that. What do you mean, fuckface? How did this happen? Maybe I'm a fan of DJ Pauly D. Jesus, don't write here judging. I'll have none of it.
We love Jersey Shore.
We love Jersey Shore.
In our
and
house.
I'm not afraid to say it. You know why? Because I'm in America. If I were in Italy while they shot the last season, maybe I wouldn't feel this way. I can't wait to see those shenanigans. The Italians will not put up with this.
Seth Meyers had my favorite joke on that, which was after they had announced that the upcoming season of Jersey Shore would be filmed in Italy, he hoped it would transition seamlessly into the next season of Locked Up Abroad.
Locked Up Abroad. Perfect. Love the Seth Meyers. I just realized while I'm reading off the teleprompter, the camera's actually getting me in profile.
Yep.
This is our most unusual show.
What the hell is going on?
Actually, this is one of those things where when you get a cold, you can't believe you were well as long as you were before you got the cold. You're like, wow, how do I not have a cold all the time?
Yeah.
And I'm now thinking as this is happening, it took 118 shows for one of our cameras to shut down? That's pretty good. I'm looking at the bright side.
What's more impressive is we didn't land the plane. We're still up in the air trying to fix the engine as we're going.
Excellent analogy.
We have not. We are not going to ground at some regional airport while we fix this.
No, we don't have to circle.
No.
We don't have to circle or refuel.
Yeah.
We're just not ready.
We're not ready.
No. All right, as we swap out cameras, we now go to the Larry King game. Fortunately, I don't have one this week. Wait, there's another Ask Kevin. Sorry, the third and final Ask Kevin. I've been watching... Scroll, Kenny, scroll. This one's from @Mark. I've been watching your show via the iTunes for the last couple of months. Great show, thank you. The purpose of this posting is to let you know that there is a 5'7" Irish Catholic man in his late 30s running around the Twin Cities, Minnesota, looking like you. He's my brother, and it freaks me out. I attached a photo with this posting to get your thoughts. Is there any legal action you can take to make him stop looking like you? Thanks. Keep up the great work, Mark. Let's take a look at the monitor there.
Oh my God!
There he is. It's uncanny.
It really isn't even close. That's not even a little bit close.
He has no hair.
Well, the guy has no hair. While
Wait, stop close. That is creepy what you guys are doing to the face there. They're really getting close on it.
On the guy's face?
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
I'm going to say Ian Gomez. Show it again.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to go Ian Gomez.
There you go.
From the Cougar Town.
Larry Miller.
Or Larry Miller. I got him to go Larry Miller to block. Peter? Okay. So my answer, Mark, is no legal action needed. Just change your medication.
Although maybe you can get him to double for you, like how Saddam had all those doubles.
Yes, Sam, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to have some Saddam doubles.
You know?
Why would you want someone to double you that doesn't look like you? Because they want to think it's Larry Miller. Got it. While my camera is clearly not ready yet, the good news is it's time to introduce our guest. And we no longer need to focus on my camera. We can have the two-shot and his shot, and the show will proceed without refueling. Although clearly, by the amount of water that my guest and I are drinking, there will be a pee break in today's show. It took 118 interviews to not only get a fucked up camera, but we finally got our first PhD. Yes, that's right. In his case, the history of 15th century Venetian art. He also has a master's degree in Italian Renaissance art history. He subsequently developed the curriculum for and taught Hollywood and the Roman Empire at Syracuse University. Oh, and he received an Academy Award nomination for his film directorial debut and once answered to the name Buckaroo. Please welcome Peter Weller.
Thanks.
How about that, sir?
That's a fairly succinct intro.
Well, I like.
Well done, well done.
I've
you guys are mad. I think you all should be arrested, all of you, man. They're coming to take you away.
The inmates have taken over.
All right.
Clearly. Yeah. This is not your dad's talk show.
What yucks?
So welcome. I'm glad you brought this, by the way.
Art Bulletin?
Assuming you brought it.
I did. Yeah, Art Bulletin is a sort of a seminal art magazine that reviews everything. It's a college art association. It reviews everything from contemporary art, antique art, Renaissance art. And
right.
I have, I plow through it. I haven't finished the PhD, by the way. I'll finish it next year. Writing a dissertation now.
Tell me something about this pursuit, because the master's degree is one thing.
Yeah.
The PhD, for the uneducated such as I, seems like it takes 10 years.
Yeah.
Because you're working also. It's not like you're just doing it.
It's not. It's not my day gig.
Exactly.
It's a bitch. But
your day gig is 6 different things.
Yeah.
So if it takes 10 years, who cares? I think it's incredible.
If I thought about it, if I stopped to think about it, then I'd quit.
Yeah.
Because it's you got to chip away at it every day. I started on this train because I went to Italy on the urging of Ali McGraw, the wonderful, lovely, beautiful Ali McGraw.
According to your dossier, it took you by the hand and showed you the Picasso exhibit at the MoMA.
That's exactly right.
That's where it all started in 1979.
Buddy. Somebody has done the research.
I'm here for you.
Yeah. And so I was living with Ali McGraw. Still a great friend of my wife and I, and as a superb person and smart, you're hard-pressed dinner companion or sit next to her.
Nice.
But she was studying art history at Wellesley. She became the sort of go-to girl of the year under Diana Vreeland. Sylvia Plath was another one where Diana Vreeland would go to the Ivy League girls' schools and take a sort of a protege. And Ali became a stylist under some amazing photographer for Vogue, and I forget what his name is.
Let's say Scavullo, because it sounds great.
It was better than Scavullo.
Really?
I mean, Scavullo was great, but it was before Scavullo. It was Henry somebody or other. And one time they were in the Bahamas, and the model got sick, and they put Ali in a bikini, and the rest is history. She was the kind of the organizer. Yeah, so she was into art and art history way before, and she spoke languages, and she was just cultured, and she was just an incredible influence on me, and also a very sexy broad.
Needless to say.
Needless to say. So when Picasso's Guernica, the great painting that sadly celebrated the destruction of that city under the Nazi occupation of that part of Spain, was leaving to go back to Spain. They had the biggest aggrandizing Picasso exhibit on all 5 floors of MoMA.
Biggest in the world.
Biggest in the world ever. And she had private entree to it. And I said, man, I don't want to go around and look at, spend an afternoon and look at some fucking violinists, fucking blue guitars and shit. Man. And she took me by the hand, walked me through that, man, it changed.
From the mouth of babes.
I said, where do I start with this? She says, look, everybody starts with the Impressionists. Yeah. They're easy to get your head around. It's light hitting an object. And so I studied my way slowly forward into contemporary art and Rauschenberg and those guys and Hans Hofmann and Jackson Pollock and Larry Rivers and those cats. But then I started studying backwards, and when you get to the Renaissance, it's just not art. It's a transformation of social sciences, of politics, of land distribution, poetry, it's music. Yeah. Everything hits then. So I needed some training. So I'd been going to Italy a bunch, and she sent me to Italy the first time I ever went. And I was making a movie for MGM, Leviathan,
Remember that company, MGM? They were great.
Yeah, remember them? They actually had a film library. I don't know what the fuck happened to that one, man.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, they got a big hotel that's green. As Dennis Hopper said, we were doing a movie for HBO, and I was staying at the Tropicana. He said, I want to get into the Tropicana, man. I said, look, there's no rooms. He says, I'll do the MGM. The next day he comes out of the MGM. I said, how is it, Dennis? You know, this guy's like got a lot of leftover residual hallucinogens in that psyche. I said, how's the MGM? It's fucking green, man. Everywhere I look, it's green. It's like fucking Oz, man.
That's actually a great Dennis Hopper.
Yeah, no, I love Dennis.
Yeah.
So anyway, how did I get into Vegas? I forgot. But I was making a movie for MGM in Rome, and the big hoop to do about cleaning the Sistine was up. And there was a whole scholarly thing, and I think it was in Time magazine, where James Beck, guys from Columbia, said, don't touch it. Michelangelo is not a colorist. It's monochrome. It's supposed to be like that. The corners are the spandrels, these corner architectural elements are like vanity and these horrible sins of man. You know, it's all supposed to be, you know, Sturm und Drang. And another guy, Leo Steinberg, the great Leo Steinberg, who's possibly just passed away, the seminal art historian of the 20th century. And the guy could rap on from everything from Romanesque churches to Picasso, the cleaning of the Sistine, what have you. Brilliant guy, defended the cleaning of the Sistine because he said that Michelangelo was a colorist, and Michelangelo's only got one painting. It's in the Uffizi. It's the Sacred Family, the Doni Tondo, big colors. He said if you clean those spandrels, you will find that this is not Sturm und Drang, this is not depression at all. This is the Jewish history of Jesus, represented by men waiting upon women during their pregnancy, which is the Jewish tradition all the way from the Israelites walking out of Egypt.
Wow.
They clean a little bit of that. I'm doing this movie. I'm reading this shit. I don't care about it. But Victoria De Sica's son invites me to go up and touch the scaffolding while they're cleaning it. I had no interest in that either.
God.
But all this stuff hits the fan while I'm making a movie in Rome. And then a brilliant kid who's was the lead guitar player and he formed the group Blind Lemon. Remember this?
Yeah.
In the Garage Band?
Yeah.
Named Corey Brennan. Corey Brennan is not only a virtuoso guitar player, plays not unlike Hendrix, but a genius classicist from Harvard.
Wow.
So there he was at the American Academy getting his PhD at 22, still playing with Blind Lemon, getting the PhD in classicism. And he takes me around to these archaeological digs. So anyway, long story short, my whole head got compacted with this stuff. And then I started taking summer courses at Syracuse and got enough for a master's degree. Finished the master's degree at Syracuse University in Florence, by the way, which is not like a usual master's degree. You got to go study documents and monuments, and you have to teach. And remember the big strike in like 2001? There was all three unions were going to strike, and I was going to do a Showtime TV series. So I thought, well, what the hell, man? I'll just get a backpack, go over, rent myself a cool pad on the Arno, and finish this master's degree, man.
And that's what you did?
Yeah, baby, but about a month in I wanted to quit, man, because they told me I had to audit. I had no undergrad credits in art history, and I had to audit this stuff. So I had to get up at 6 o'clock and hike with like 20-year-olds to class.
That's no good for you.
You know, man, and then sit all afternoon and start writing this stuff.
And all of this is in Firenze?
All of it's in Firenze.
And
man.
you're staying outside of?
I'm staying in this beautiful little penthouse because I got a little bit of loot.
Sure.
Right on the Arno, I'm thinking this is going to swing. I'm going to cool my jets here, you know.
And then you're
goof off
hiking at 6 in the morning.
No, man, and then it broke my back. And about 30 days into it, my mother came to visit me with my now wife. And I said, you know, I'm out of here, man. I'm out of here because academia is fucked up. You know, you think the movie business got some fucked up people, man. Academia, these people have been tenured into a lifestyle that nobody's going to touch them.
Right.
And they're taking no advice, no coaching on anything. I'm going to walk up to a teacher and say, hey, nice class. And she look at me like, what the fuck you mean by that? There's no social skills at all.
Wow.
And plus which my other grads sort of, I want to say sort of, resented me because I was a man, because I also got a pass on undergrad work, because I had a little bit of money, because I didn't have to do it,
right.
You know, and I was doing it for fun, so they took me as like I was a charlatan. So I was about to bail, and thank God my wife and my mother said, hey, what else are you going to do? That's my mother's answer to everything was like, what else are you going to do?
She would breathe a little logic into it?
So I finished that and then was told that I'd have to get these recommendations if I ever wanted to do a PhD. Got them, then found out the recommendations were only good for 2 years. So I was accepted to UCLA and NYU, chose UCLA, and now I'm finished the PhD. The PhD is actually easier. It's research-wise than doing that master's degree in Florence. Because when you're in Florence doing graduate work in the Renaissance,
Jesus Christ,
you know, that's like being in Jerusalem studying the history of the Jews.
right?
You know, they're on your ass, man. You can't make any mistakes.
Right.
You're studying Latin, Italian, French, German. You're in documents, man. It's just, you know, coming to UCLA is a little bit easier. I chip away at it every day, but
I liked how you said when was asked about traveling and giving advice to come, because you've taken some of the students now from Syracuse over to Florence and
points south.
The ultimate field trip is how I would refer to it. But you said
that was the swingingest field trip ever.
Oh, gotta be. Learn the language, though, was a great tip, a great piece of advice. Because I've been to Italy now a handful of times and have not learned the language to the other. You know, I learned il conto.
Per favore.
Per favore, il conto.
Yeah.
How much is it? A check, please. Where's the bathroom? Please don't arrest me. I mean, I learned the important things.
But they like you to say that shit. Unlike Paris, they don't like you to say that shit.
Right. The fuck?
But Italians love you to say that shit. I got a buddy of mine, a writer, Jimmy Borelli, took his mother to Sicily to see the Sicilian, very bright guy, comic writer, very acerbic. The only guy I know that could talk faster and beat up Jimmy Woods.
Wow.
You can imagine that.
No, I can't.
Because we both knew Woodsy since Woodsy's 19. And Jimmy Borelli could outdo Woods, and Woods would get so frustrated.
Yeah, I don't see that happening.
So Borelli takes over his dictionary, and he wants to learn the hometown language, you know, and he's got the thing. He's got the mother with him, and he says, io voglio, scusi, io voglio un vaso d'acqua. Some guy in Messina, Sicily, goes, bravo, hey, Luigi, vieni qua, vieni. And he says, do it again for Luigi. My buddy Jimmy Borelli loses it, throws the book down. We brought you nylons. We gave you Hershey bars. You fuck.
Yeah.
You embarrass us. I'm a fucking American. Goes completely jingoistic on this guy. Fucking the Sicilians are going, get out of here.
Yeah.
Buddy.
That was a thing, though, that amazed me about the temperament and the love for Americans in my experiences when I visit any part of Italy, is that it still feels like you could get a great meal for a box of chocolates and some nylons.
That's right.
There is a tremendous love, sort of the opposite of what we always hear about France in terms of... And it took me years to find out that the French are really pissed off that we have to remind them we bailed them out. That's what they're really angry about.
Yeah. But several people bailed the French out.
Well, of course.
And now there's a great book out called French Lies. There's like 1,000 things in there that the French claim they did and they didn't do. You know,
I gotta
like
get
the guillotine invented it, they didn't invent it.
They just named it.
Yeah, just named it.
They gave it a better name. So yeah, the great thing that you said that I love was learn the language, and the feeling was it's not just my father yelling at some immigrant saying, you're in America, speak English.
Yeah.
It's more of learn the language, learn what's in the mind and hearts of the people who live there. That's what happens when you learn the language.
Yeah.
Because it's the most emotional language ever.
Yeah. It's the most musical, too.
Oh, God. Yeah. Also, help me with this one. Such a tourist, my first time going to Venezia. Last day of the trip, I kept passing by the store that had the most amazing luggage in the window. Last day on the trip, literally leaving for the airport to go back to America. I get to the shop. It's closed. It's the noon to 3.
Yeah.
And the person in the windows, they can talk. They're talking to me through the door. They won't open the door. Sorry, come back later. No, I'm going back to America. Fanning out money. This is yours. I just want that bag. No, come back later. I'm going to America. Okay, we'll see you next time. Could care fucking less about selling a piece of anything.
That's right.
Living to work versus working to live.
Yeah.
Oh my. So how do you not fall in love with that your first trip?
I did, man. You know, the first place I went was Positano, where I live now. I mean, I live in L.A., but we live, we're going to have you for, I don't know, almost 30 years now. And I still, when we leave, when Sherry and I leave, we pull the car over and look at that Amalfi Coast and look back at that village and ask God to bring us back.
Yeah.
And there was a great cat the guy who rebuilt all the ports of Naples, named Giulio Moscolo, who just passed away in '93. All his ex-wives lived in Positano too. He bought them all villas and shit. His son Pepe owns a private club in London. He's become more English than Italian. But Giulio not only found my place for me, but Giulio, one time having lunch, he goes, and he retired to Positano to a big 18-room villa, right? He'd made all his money clean. He got out the 7th Army, the United States Army paid him off, and and he retired, became a teacher and so forth. And Giulio said to me one time, and we're sitting and having lunch, man, right by, having fresh calamari and that stuff, and I take it so for granted until I leave, and he said, Peter, he says to me in English, Peter, sometimes I leave Positano just so I can come back.
Oh, that's
a killer, isn't it?
Fucking
beautiful.
beautiful.
And that's a guy who's like from there.
Yeah.
So nobody takes it for granted. And there's sayings on the Amalfi Coast, there's beautiful sayings. There's a saying, quando un amalfitano, a person from the Amalfi Coast, quando un amalfitano arriverà a Paradiso sarà una giornata come tutte le altre, which means when a person from the Amalfi Coast arrives in heaven, it'll be a day just like all the others.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, man. But you've been there.
Yeah.
You've seen it. It's,
I drove the Amalfi Coast just so I said I could do it. But oh boy, do you feel alive?
Yeah.
With fear that first time.
Yeah, it's intimidating, but very few accidents there.
I'm sure.
They know it well, yeah. Mostly guys like us the first time go, fuck!
Yeah, the locals have no problem with it.
And if I can name drop, the guy who convinced me to buy my place, it was the last $250,000 cash I had at the time. They wanted all cash. Dennis showed me how to take the illegal money under the table. I shouldn't be saying that on the webcam, because you always in Italy, you have to pay some money under the table, just so your money's clean in the United States. Italy,
Are you suggesting there's some sort of crime involved?
Yeah, no. It's not crime.
No.
Everybody's in on it.
Exactly.
Nobody's duped.
That's right.
Everybody knows. The notary knows. The public knows. The legal guy knows. But Gore Vidal convinced me to do it. I said, Gore, this is... he's a mentor to me. He signed... him and Woody Allen signed my personal recommendations into grad school. I should tell you what they say. They're not very supportive, but they're good. Gore said, if you don't buy it, Weller, you'll regret it the rest of your life. And so I bought it on his note. But Woody, who's a friend a long time before I ever worked with him.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Because our mutual friend, Brian Hamill, one of Woody's oldest friends and arguably one of the great poster photographers ever, brother of Pete Hamill, writer, but did the great face of De Niro and Raging Bull and... Oh, wow. Redford's The Natural and all the Woody movies, that wonderful Brooklyn Bridge thing in Manhattan. Yeah. And that's how I knew Woody and knew him socially. So I asked Woody, I said, can you write my personal recommendation into grad school? And on Gritty Palace Hotel stationery.
Gritty Palace.
The Gritty Palace.
Such a great.
He wrote, Peter Weller is my friend, a fellow writer, musician, actor, director, and a credit to his race. What the fuck does that mean?
That's fantastic.
Like a good white guy?
Yeah, exactly. Without sounding a bit didactic, I think it's extremely important to remember that Peter's not a Jew and should not be judged as one.
That's good, man.
Well,
I love him, man.
Hero beyond belief. And so
go ahead.
Tell me, though, because I've talked to people who've worked with him, of course, some people at this very table, but the idea of being friends first, is there a little extra freedom to play when you do finally get on the set as a friend?
Dig it. I was making a movie with Michelangelo Antonioni. Me and Malkovich were the only two Americans asked to be in this series of 4 vignettes by Michelangelo Antonioni, who's a hero to me and a hero to Woody. And Woody was working with Carlo De Palma, who was Michelangelo's first focus puller and then his DP.
Is this the one that Wim Wenders signed on as the...
That's right.
Just to...
Beyond the Clouds, just to make the insurance go, yeah. So we're shooting that in Paris, doing reshoots, and I'm flying back and forth doing Mighty Aphrodite. Initially, Woody had miscast it, and then I got this sort of call from his secretary, I forget her name, and said, Woody, need you to jump over here and do this movie. I said, yeah, whatever. So Woody, the ironic thing about him is that he doesn't consider himself, first of all, he knows I laugh at everything he says, so usually on a set it's very tenuous and quiet, all these guys have worked with him, but I'm a jazz guy, he's a jazz guy, we have jazz in common. Second of all, I giggle, man. I'm a giggle puss around a guy. So he really opened up, and a crew would always come up to me and say, he does this for you. He doesn't do it for us. He knows he's got an audience. But he doesn't consider himself a good director, if I can wax theatrical here about directing. which bores the shit out of me talking about the proceeds of movie making, but it's an interesting thing about Woody.
Yeah.
He doesn't feel that he knows the language to talk to the trained guys. Like, I come from Uta Hagen, and Elie Kazan brought me to the Actors Studio, or Pacino, De Niro, anybody from that. But you know and I know that when we get older and we get moving, we don't want to talk about it, you know? We just want somebody to tell us when we're wrong.
Yeah.
So actually, he's the perfect director for me, because he would set up this thing, you know, he's got a plan, and he'd set it up, and then you just kind of vamp. And then if you're hitting the wrong thing or the wrong notes, he'll just say a couple of things like, why don't you, like, you know, write the deal there, and instead of that. That's it. Which is the brilliance of a great director. But in his head, he thinks you got to have all this sort of, I guess the Kazans of the world or the Mike Nichols of the world got to, you know, have a big speech. But even Kazan said, you know, if you cast it right, you get out of the way.
Well, this seems to be the truth of every director I've ever worked with and every director I've spoken to about the nature of communicating your desires to the actor.
Yeah.
The best way to do that is to cast the right actor.
Yeah, and then it's a word or something.
Yeah.
Because you can certainly overspeak it. But I found him delightful to work with, man. Just
well, let's segue. I mentioned at the top to your directorial debut getting an Oscar nomination. What the fuck? For the short film Partners?
Yeah.
Right.
Tom McGuane short story. Yeah.
So you'd already worked with, at that point, what I found interesting, and I do want to come back to the jazz, actually. That's a big part of today. But you'd already worked with Richard Lester and Lumet.
And Nichols on the theater.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Michael Apted, some great. And so were you like me, where when you're working as an actor, you're kind of studying what the master is doing?
Yeah.
But then the question is, are you studying it because it's art and it's wonderful to see take place, or is there a part of you that's collecting information for the future?
It's all collecting information. It's that there's a vocabulary of great directors. And Coppola said it best, the director is essentially solving problems in a good way, because there's nothing but problems, as you well know. And so I was collecting as a vocabulary, and I saw that shot of Goodfellas, you know, this the dolly back and, you know, and push in on the focus, you know, zoom in and dolly back at the same time. So this whole sort of schematic of area around you becomes claustrophobic, you know, while these guys get farther away from you.
Yeah.
Which is a bizarre feeling, as terror is going to go down. But I wrote these guys. I wrote Scorsese, I wrote Coppola, I wrote Nichols, I wrote Woody, I wrote them all. I said, I'm stealing. I gave the list of shots that I was stealing from them. I said, I'm directing this little film for Showtime Paramount, and I'm going to be stealing these shots, and made a list of like 10 of them, because I felt like a plagiarist. I didn't feel the freedom, you know, or the wherewithal to just kind of rip them off.
Instead of just being inspired, you thought you would own it?
I was going to rip them off like shot by shot, you know. I wasn't going to get inventive on it. And Scorsese wrote me back the great letter. He said, please steal all of my shots, because there's not one of them that's original.
Wow. Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
He didn't have the wherewithal to write the letter, though. He just stole.
Yeah, but you know, he's an egalitarian guy. What a great cat! You ever met him?
Yes, we had the great pleasure of working with him once, and it was.
Oh, you worked with him? Oh, I never worked with him, man. But he's such a smart guy.
Oh,
a brainiac.
Part of the getting the I was offered the part, which, you know, for an actor, an offer from Scorsese,
which is the light bulb joke.
Pretty much the goal line. Which is the light bulb joke?
Yeah. How many actors does it take to screw in a light bulb?
Tell me.
15. 1 to screw in the light bulb, and 14 to say I was offered that part, but I turned it down.
That's one for Jamie. She's heard me say that 1,000 times.
Have you?
Yeah, I turned that down. But in order to get the job, after being offered the job, there were two prerequisites. I had to sit down with Bob De Niro and sit down with Marty. 2 different occasions, 2 different places. And I said to my agent, what do you mean I got to sit down with them? Do I have to? No, they just want to say hello. All right. So I'm sure you know by now, Bob takes 15 seconds for him to say nothing, and then I get to leave because he doesn't really talk. That was our hello. And then Scorsese was the opposite. I said, how are you? And he literally talked for 90 minutes.
Yeah, it's a tutorial.
Oh, God.
And he talks like a machine gun.
And every other sentence has a film reference in it.
Yeah.
You know, when they did the thing, and you have to go, huh? Even if you have no idea what film he's talking about.
No, because he's seen every movie ever made.
Exactly. It's uncanny. So what I loved about reading...
And he talks faster than Jimmy Woods.
Way faster, which is, you know, only dogs can hear a certain part.
Yeah.
What I loved about following along the research on you was where a lot of actors, myself included, pour their hearts and souls and lives into the love of the doing of the thing of the show business. You were able to extract yourself and follow both music and art. We've talked about the art a little bit. I want to talk more about it. I warned you that I would ask who your favorite pharaoh is, just in terms of your history.
Thutmose IV.
Education. Yeah. All right, we'll go there first, and then we'll come to the jazz. Tell me why this is your favorite pharaoh.
I think the guys in the second dynasty is right before. He's the son of actually Hatshepsut, the woman who was the pharaoh, who's got the grooviest palace, man, right outside of Luxor. It's still there. Yeah, and maybe Hatshepsut, because she was a woman and she put on a beard and a merkin and the whole thing and said, "Okay, I'm pharaoh," and everybody grooved with that. And she actually ran Upper and Lower Egypt, man, for I don't know what, 25 years.
Seriously?
Yeah. And that's a feminist, you know.
Everyone knew about the merkin?
I think they did, sure. Yeah, everybody knew about it. And her images were destroyed, and the great guy, I think he's a great guy, he's definitely a great personality, Zawi Hawass, is on all the Discovery and History channels, always pumping up Egyptology, is the guy who found her, what we think is her crypt underneath an obelisk in Luxor. But yeah, come on, I mean, to be that sophisticated civilization and to...
And for 25 years.
Yeah, for it to say, okay, everybody knows I'm a chick, but you know what? My balls clank, as they say in Texas, so I'm going to run this joint. And she did. And her son is Thutmose, so... but I think I'd like to be Hatshepsut, you know, just to... Not that I'm that way, but you know,
this is one.
But to know that queen, like you said, and not run it as a queen, but put on the accoutrement of a man, and
I can do this.
I can do this, yeah. Because I'm always for that, you know. I'm always for the person. I mean, we all are, aren't we? There's somewhere in our hearts for the underdog who goes.
Can't help it. But now, did this fascination? When did this fascination of history, be it the Italian Renaissance or Egyptian?
That's a good damn question.
Yeah, I mean, because it has to be organic to your nature. So maybe it's only a good question because it didn't happen one day. It just was there.
Well, look, let me put this granddaddy of art history, who was also a wonderful children's book writer.
Really?
Pardon me. And he lived almost to 100 years old. His name is E.H. Gombrich. He wrote the history of art. He wrote sort of monographs for beginners, but he was also an astute art historian of texts and iconography. But he said one of the great things, one of the cornerstone statements that I read when I started getting into it, he said, you know, there's a cliche about art that I know what I like, right? That you can apply to anything.
Sure.
And he said, you don't know what you like. You like what you know.
Yes.
And if someone takes anyone by the hand through something that they don't know and begins to explain it, you will end up at least having appreciation, if not a voracious appetite for it.
Right.
Well,
So
that's how it started with me.
That's the thing.
I had no interest in art until Ally McGraw. My mother tried to get me interested in art. You know, he went out to play baseball. My father, first half of his life, was the United States Army
pilot.
Pilot, right. Yeah. And was Johnson's pilot and flew in all 3 wars and so forth. And then he became a lawyer and a judge and had a whole other life. But we were stationed in Heidelberg, Germany in the late 50s when Germany didn't have its civil rights back yet, before Kennedy.
Right.
My father, because of his G2 clearance, actually took me when it was intact, surrounded by machine guns, because they didn't know whether Israeli reactionaries or leftover Nazis blew it up. Dachau, the first death camp, the only one in Germany. He took me through it where the boxcars, ovens, showers were intact. Before it was a monument, man, I was 12 years old. My mother said, do not take him there.
Why did he take you?
Because my brother was 15, and they figured my brother could get his head around it, and he knew what show at Holocaust was. You know, I only knew what Little League was,
right.
you know, and stuff. So he woke me up. Actually, I had Little League practice, and we're going somewhere, and it was always just austere, and nobody's telling me, what the fuck is going on here? Where are we going to take me? We show up with that, with MPs, machine gun installations, and so forth. We're let in. My father takes me, my mother takes my brother, and you know, this is like I'm like a Northern European. I'm as goyim as you can get. You know, I'm like Welsh, German, French. I'm not even Mediterranean.
No.
I'm not even. You know, I'm not anywhere near that wonderful cachet of Genesis. Right? And he takes me through. Doc, I know I'm asking him these. What? And he says, and this is where, and this was the, and this is how, and this is a horror. And for 2 hours, and we're the only people there, and we're accompanied by machine gun MPs, UN guys, and whatever. After this, I got 100 questions. I have nightmares about it.
No
I can't
shit.
understand it. I can't understand it. I wake up, I'm asking 100 questions. My mother and my father have this like year-long fight. I told you we shouldn't have taken him. We should have not taken him. This is like scarred him for life on this thing. Well, it's one of the greatest gifts he ever gave me.
Absolutely.
It's absolutely one of the greatest gifts.
Was his notion, do you think now, looking back on it, so that we never forget?
Yeah, I think his notion was this. He had a degree in history, and he was always reading books. And because of his cachet as a pilot, he got to fly everywhere. He got to go to Athens, and he got to go on essentially a budget whereupon Europe was broke. You know, the Marshall Plan was trying to bring it back.
Right.
Europe was broke, so they were living high off the hog. And then Austin and Healey sports cars driving everywhere, flying to the Scala, you know, on the weekends and stuff. This is like the life of Riley for them. But he was always reading, and he was always a chipper away at particular histories. He wanted to, and by the way, I had an epiphany about this 4 years ago. At the age of 60, I have an epiphany. Why didn't my father answer these questions? That's the only thing left over. Why didn't he really explicitly tell me what the Wehrmacht was up to in 1932 with Kristallnacht and so forth, and the expunging of the great intelligentsia of Jewry from Europe, which, by the way, those that survived of intelligence came to NYU and Columbia, and we got art history out of them.
And there it is.
And he's one of the great ironies. I just want to digress to say, the great guys that reinvented Renaissance art history in the 20th century, which is essentially Catholic symbolism, were Jews.
We're Jews.
All of them, man. You know, the seminal guys, Krautheimer, on and on, Lotz, Steinberg, I just told you about.
Yeah.
Because that cultural entity, the cafe society, the knowledgeable bookkeeper students of cultural history were Jews. And have always been so in Europe, for the most part.
Right.
So my father wanted to, and I'm saying, why doesn't he explain this to me? And I go to the Holocaust Museum in D.C. You ever been? Mm-hmm. Okay, where you take the badge.
Yeah.
And I get the badge of a Yugoslavian doctor who hid 40 Jews, was found out, taken to Bergen-Belsen essentially, and was exterminated there, right? And you must do it like they say.
Right.
You have to go listen to every film, the Goebbels, hoopla. Otherwise, all you get is depressed. You get overwhelmingly depressed. You can, but if you do it like they say, then you put it in a context so that you do never forget.
Exactly.
You come out with it with that big room where you see the accountability of every country in the world, including Bulgaria, who didn't give, it was like 40,000 Jews, not one was given up. Denmark, 110,000 Jews, only like 90 perished or something like that because of the complicity of the countries, so that there are heroes among us who see the writing on the wall about horror coming their way, right?
Yeah.
It was only then that I got to contextualize it, and it was only then that I saw, shit, my father didn't explain it to me because it fucked him up as much as me.
Yeah.
And we endow our fathers with these answers, man.
The
And I'm
power.
12 years old, my father's like, what, 35? He doesn't understand this.
No way.
There's nothing that he could have read that would have prepped him for 1959 walking into Dachau.
It hadn't been adjusted.
No, man, there was nothing. You know, you couldn't have done it. So his reticence was not a reticence at all. It was an incapability to say anything.
Almost, you know, not to digest it down to its simplistic nature, but almost like, I can't make heads or tails of this. You, as my sons, need to.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And, you know, I thanked him over and over again for that. He said, you know, your mother, I said, I know what you went through with her, man. I said, you know, get over it, because that is absolutely a seminal gift you gave me.
Yeah.
Because if anything put me in the touch of a social context for human beings walking through the path of life, and whatever horrible turns, you know, politics can take.
And we're capable of.
Yeah, and we're capable of it. And as Arthur Miller said so brilliantly, it isn't the Wehrmacht, it's mankind, you know.
Right.
Any left turn, and you're there.
Right.
And then that was, wow, man.
Well, what was the first influence in the jazz, now that we know?
That was my mother. My mother was a jazz piano player.
Really?
Yeah. And my mother turned me on to Duke Ellington, man. And, you know,
At the age of?
9. And I picked up a trumpet. And she tried to turn me on to Miles Davis. Miles Davis ended up being a dear friend. And Miles Davis bequeathed, he was a very good painter. He painted like Kandinsky. I can't find a Kandinsky in there, but he bequeathed me his self-portrait, which is on my office wall. It's just about half the size of this wall. It's this beautiful thing in yellow with Miles in the middle of it. So I didn't get Miles at all.
As a 9-year-old, you didn't get Miles?
No.
What the hell's the matter with you?
Yeah. No.
Too much soul.
Yeah, when you said Don Cheadle was going to be on, Don Cheadle, I know, has the rights to some Miles movie, and I hope he makes it, man.
Boy,
Because Miles, I was the last person in Miles' last gig, the last person out of his dressing room, man. And walked him to his car. And we both had the same year of Ferrari, you know, and he hated his Ferrari. He drove the shit out of it. I loved mine. And he said, where are you going? I said, I'm on my way to Paris to make a flick. I didn't know he was dying. I didn't know he was sick. And he said, well, where are you going, Peter? I said, I'm on my way to Paris. Are you going to stop by New York? I said, yeah, man. He said, drive my Ferrari for me when you're in New York. I said, Miles, I won't have time. And he screwed up his face like I was the biggest asshole in the world, man. He kind of leaned forward. He had the Legion of Honor. His Mitterrand gave him the Legion of Honor. He goes, fuck, make time. Got in his car. It was gone.
Well, if he knew that he wouldn't have time for real at that point, then you saying you didn't have time didn't make a lot of sense.
Listen, man, you know, I know, what are you in your 50s, right? You're in your 56,
Technically.
57, yeah. Technically.
Technically, I'm in my early 50s.
I am 48, man, and I am having my first kid at the age of 48.
Yeah.
But look, there's a cat who's a really great friend of mine. He does an he's an antiquarian book dealer here in L.A. He's maybe one of the 4 best in the world. It's only, like, he just sold the first folio, the first edition, 4th folio, William Shakespeare, 1685, you know, so he does that. But he said an interesting thing the other day about music. From 64, we're talking about Miles and Bob Dylan. And, you know, the 2 things they have in common is that they didn't know how to repeat anything. No matter if they made $1 million off of that album, they never went back and did that thing. And Keith Jarrett asked Miles Davis, why don't you play those beautiful ballads, man, that you played in the early 60s, like Kind of Blue? And I said, and you know what Miles' response was? Because I love them. That's why he didn't play them.
That's not deep.
Yeah. Because you start playing them, that's all you want to play.
Right.
And you're not going to go anywhere off of that.
Yeah.
And Dylan was the same way. And all of a sudden, I said, Dylan, yeah, he never really did that again. I mean, it was always something else.
Yeah.
And then Mark said, this sounds like an oldster saying this, but this CD, I mean, this DVD of Jimi Hendrix at Honorary Pop before the world had seen him just came out, and it was all redigitized, so you got a whole 40 minutes of Jimi Hendrix. And I was like, I love Jimi Hendrix, but let me go back, about 3 weeks ago, back and say, what the fuck did I love about Jimi Hendrix? And then I look at that thing and I think, God, that's like a jet plane coming at you, man.
Unencumbered artist that was on another plane.
Another plane.
Yeah.
Like lifted it into something else. So, and I was talking about that, Mark, he says, you know, between 64 and 70, it doesn't matter whether you want to look at Led Zeppelin or what was happening in classical music, electronic classical music, or Hendrix, or Miles, or Coltrane, or Dylan, or whatever. That was a period of time where almost all of the arts, be it music, dance, theater, whatever, was the caboose at the end of music's train. You know, Beatles, Stones, whatever, Beggar's Banquet, Revolver, Sgt. Pepper, you know, and I said, God, my God, it was like every 2 months.
Something absurd came out.
There was something absurd, yeah. Absurd is a great way because there was no expectation that came up to what the next thing was.
Right.
And then he said his little cynical, he says, and every generation is trying to repeat that sentence with failure, you know, and maybe so.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So when you say your mom turned you on to it when you were 9, again, finding the passion organically, was it just sort of instant, or was it something born of a child's curiosity? I love the way Mom plays, I'm going to give this a whirl.
No, well, if you come home, you know, my mother played everything. She played Rachmaninoff, or if it wasn't like, you know, Mahler's Ninth, and it was blaring. And my father had no ear for music at all. He could not stand loud music. My mother would have this cranked, you know, you know, I remember one time she was playing Beethoven's Seventh, this unbelievable, that adagio and this thing about French return of Russia. It's so loud it feels like the New York Philharmonics in this little apartment, you know, in Germany. And they just had all the new Grundig, you know, stuff. She would do this. She'd crank it up. You know, you'd sit there with doing your homework with your ears spinning, right? And my dad would come in. She'd go, "Here comes your dad," and she would jack it up even higher, so that when he walked in, he would turn it down. She'd go, "God damn it, I can't hear a thing in this room," and he would turn it down to where she had it in the first place.
Oh God!
And that's the trick.
Yeah.
So I was exposed to it. Once again, it's exposure. Once again, it's E.H. Gombrich saying, you like what you know. So if I'm listening to, and by the way, my mother loved Hendrix and the Beatles and Bob Dylan. And I did a poetry reading contest in Texas and read a Dylan poem and called it anonymous because no one's going to give me any prize if I said it was Bob Dylan. Spanish Harlem Incident, I said it was an anonymous Irish something or other, right? Got runner-up or tied for something. Then
at age of
20, 19, something like that.
That's pretty
and my mother
bad.
would say, "Tell me one of those Bob Dylan songs." I'd be driving her. And she said, I'd say, "You know, I think that's as good as," I said to her once, "I think that's as good as Carl Sandburg." She says, "No, that time of Bob Dylan is better than Sandburg. It's better than Frost." I go, "You really think so?" She said, "Yeah." My mother was just exposed me to everything. One time I was going to Neil Diamond.
Jesus.
Yeah, I know. But this guy, one of the guns at HBO says, "I got to go to this Neil Diamond thing, man." He says, "I'll take you to Spago, I'll take you whatever you want, go with me." Right? I'm in this limo, my mother calls me and says, "Where are you going?" I said, "Neil." I say, "I can't believe I'm going to a Neil Diamond concert." Don't put down Neil Diamond. Neil Diamond's harmonics and his voice in tune, he absolutely has, his voice is almost like a perfect pitch. Don't put Neil Diamond down.
Also brilliant songwriter.
Yeah, brilliant songwriter.
Forever.
So she loved it. She loved country and western, you know, Tammy Wynette. She loved everything, man. So it's exposure. That's what it was. So the passion grew out of exposure to it.
And you also getting this genuine appreciation of music, not, you know, it's just 100% pure.
Also, I have to say something about Dachau, though. My mother took me into synagogues as a kid, as a little kid. You know, she took me into all effigies of people's religions and faiths. And she had many Jewish friends. And being in the United States Army, you're unaware of racism, you're unaware of anti-Semitism, you're unaware of this stuff because it's an amalgam, homogenized amalgam. You're not living in a social milieu that makes distinctions, really, you know.
Right.
And so she exposed me to so many extraordinary things that I don't know that I would have had the humanist tendency that I do now if it wasn't for her. So it was ironic that she is the one who said, "Don't take him to Dachau." But I think she just thought I was too young to get my head around it. And I was.
Right.
But I finally did.
But yeah, it could also have been, well,
what?
I know absolutely nothing, but in the same tone that I felt listening, that your father's journey at that point, when you pointed out his age and his awareness, was, I'm struggling with the fuck this means.
Yeah.
You need to make of it what you will. There's a pretty good chance your mom was having a very, very similar feeling, which is,
I'm sure, man.
I'm struggling wildly with what this means, and I want to protect you from.
Yeah. I think that's it.
Yeah.
She wanted to protect it, yeah, because she couldn't get her head around it either.
Right.
Yeah.
And they're in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Which is kind of beautiful.
And also, you know, I'm about to have a kid, and man, I just see that there is no fucking rehearsal, man. You know, and I want rehearsal time. Man.
Yeah, you do.
I want 4 weeks.
There's your Uta Hagen.
Yeah.
There's your Uta Hagen
That's
right
right,
there.
man.
She messed you up with no rehearsal. She might have taught you improvising, but...
No, man. Yeah. Yeah.
I want to talk about the Actor Studio, too, because that's a historical moment in time that I don't think anyone on this show really has talked about, and for those of us who didn't come from theater, it's forever fascinating. But first, I like to involve the audience watching it from time to time. They have their own particular questions. This one is considerably off the beaten track that we've been walking thus far. But a moment in time for you, sir.
I don't wear those women's underwear anymore.
Interesting. None of that's in this question.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, so you kind of offered that up.
they found me out.
You kind of offer that up for free. This one from Terry Facio. And it's about a television show you did, which I happen to love myself, called Odyssey 5. This person loved you on that. Said, sad that it was short-lived, although in some ways, you know.
Not to be confused with short-lived.
I like the short-lived. Very well. I do. You know, you can use either. I know I make mistakes on this show, but in fact, you are, within the King's English, short-lived is the same.
Very well, sir.
I chose it this time, Sammy, instead of just being an idiot. I know it's hard to believe. I've set you up to think every mistake made is by accident. I would be interested to hear your thoughts on the show, Terry asks, and in particular, this is the part we love, what it was like working with Chris Corman and Sebastian Roche, or Roche.
Roche.
And now, Sebastian's become a friend of ours, those of us that work on the show, and I've not heard a greatly respected professional discuss what it's like to work with Sebastian. I only know him as a raconteur and
non-stop.
Non-stop, yeah. But the actual doing of the work with the Sebastian, I'm going to need a little.
I adore him.
Yeah.
I'd laid down in front of a taxi cab for him.
Did you?
No, I have not yet, but I would.
Mm-hmm.
Except that when he's on a movie set, he needs to take serious amounts of Thorazine.
Okay.
He will chit-chat right through your close-up. You know, the Armageddon can happen, the bomb can go off, the cameras fail, the whole thing, and he's still talking about it.
Are you suggesting he doesn't have an inner monologue?
I'm suggesting he needs an editor. So much so, we're doing a scene around a table once, and he's talking through my close-up. When the camera turned around, I took a glass right in the middle of his serious close-up and broke the fucking glass right in the middle of it. And he got, "Why did you do that? Why did you do that?" I said, you know, just to give you a point of view.
Yeah.
But I love him, man.
Yeah.
And actually, I had a ball with all those people.
Odyssey 5. One of the first
Manny
series.
Cotto, the guy who created it, is still a dear friend, and he, worked with him 3 times since, including on Dexter.
On Dexter.
Yeah.
He and his partner are the ones that brought you to Dexter, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a trip that must have been, by the way.
That was a ball.
Yeah.
And Michael C. Hall is great, and that cast is great. And most of that camera crew I know. But that was just the ball. They gave me a lot of room.
And also an interesting, seemingly fun turn that I'm curious about in the last handful of years from the 24, for example, as well as Dexter, after being sorts of a hero and from Buckaroo and beyond.
But the guy in 24 is a hero.
Yeah.
Like you seem something that has less than a
I'm suggesting
a
there's
patriot.
I'm suggesting
There's
there's
a Tea Party, you know.
something else going on.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But delicious and fun as an actor to sort of.
Yeah, that was great because I was doing a History Channel thing at the same time, and Manny and Howard Gordon brought me in on that, and you know, they were flying by the seat of their pants. The great thing about 24 is a lot of times they didn't know what we were doing 3 episodes out, man. They were all
holy shit
scrambling, yeah. But that was the father of their invention in a way. Right. So. I know I'm there, I do a couple of things. They had a cigar room, and I smoked cigars with Joel Surnoff and Howard Manny. And so I just say to them, I said, "Where's this character going, man?" They said, "Well, everybody dies." You know, they told me some serious loot. No, I was actually doing it. It wasn't like I was in love with 24. I'd even seen 24. Astounding show and a real breakthrough format of a show, but I didn't necessarily, I wasn't there because, I was a 24 guy. I said, "Where's this going?" They said, "Well, everybody dies on 24. So I guess you're captured next week, and I guess that Carlos Bernard is gonna kill you, you know." And I said, "What? He's gonna torture me?" And I went, "Everybody dies of torture in this show, man." It's like, I'm the guy who wrote the book on torture. I taught Jack how to torture. I don't die from torture. So Howard Gordon's, I guess, an extraordinary guy. You don't? You know, I go, "No." And so Joel Surnoff, who's wacky and wonderful, goes, "Well, how the fuck do you die then?" I said, "Well, no, I morph, I change, I escape, I go into thin air. It's something. This is the guy that you endow with."
Yeah, no, you're a ghost.
Yeah,
you gotta become a ghost.
Yeah, I become a ghost. I go, whatever. And as Howard Gordon says, well, you know, he could kill Carlos, because Carlos, they paid him off for that season and he was out. Then he came back later on, but he was essentially paid so they could kill him at any time. And Joel sort of says, well, no, you know, my God, he can't. I said, Joel, that's why people watch your show, is because they go, no. So once I killed Carlos, then they came back and said, well, we got to write you in for another 13 episodes. I said, I got this History Channel show. And they literally
Careful
said,
what you wish.
They said, oh, we'll write around you. I said, no, man, this History Channel show goes to Egypt and Greece. No problem. What are the dates you go? I said, well, here, okay. And they just wove me in to...
Oh, my God.
I would sit with Joel Surnow and he'd say, you know, this is something you find in the obit of the New York Times. I said, you know, Joel, we should use that line. I should say that line. He goes, okay, why don't you go tell it to the script people? So eventually I was going in and... but when you're given that kind of room, it's not like I'm running away with a store, you know?
No.
But you're giving them... They give you a room... They trust me. They would trust you. You invent stuff. They create it. And that's why 24 and Dexter were what they were, because they let me go and within the parameters of the thing. And that's why they were fun. If I had to really stick it to the day-to-day thing, and by the way, directing television, which I love doing, you have to, because you can't make deep cuts like that, and you have to take all the information and go to the creator.
Right.
And you're responsible for keeping it all intact. But as an actor, you know, it can be...
It's a sandbox, yeah.
Yeah, it's a sandbox, yeah. Who gave us that metaphor? Was that Wells or somebody?
Somebody great, because it's kind of perfect. And also speaking to the vulnerability of children and how you fuck with the sandbox the wrong way and you lose that vulnerability.
Kazan said that, man. Kazan said the great one. No matter what you do, do not ever tell your actor it's wrong.
Yeah.
Because it's his ass 40 feet up there, man.
What age are you when you're studying with Uda? And
I started studying with Uda in 74.
Right.
I was right out of acting school. I'd done a couple of Broadway. I'd done a great play with David Rabe, and just sort of knew that I didn't.
That was one directed by Mike Nichols?
No, that's later. That's after I studied with Uda.
Oh, okay.
I did Sticks and Bones.
Sticks and Bones, right? That was your Broadway debut. Sticks and Bones.
It was my debut in anything.
Was it?
Yeah. Yeah, and it won the Tony Award, and I thought, wow,
this is easy.
What it is. Yeah.
Sticks and Bones 72.
Yeah.
Streamers was directed by Mike Nichols.
That's right.
No? Yeah.
What a great, yeah. He's
He's
like a daddy to me, man.
Well, James L. Brooks,
who was also one of my mentors at the Sundance Institute.
Oh,
James
that's
Brooks.
pretty great.
Yeah.
He the other night at the poker game was saying that he thinks Mike Nichols may be at the apex in the accomplishment in the world of pop culture across the board, in terms of Nichols and May, in terms of the theater, in terms of film, the master of all these universes in his mind. Anyways.
I think that that Brooks is possibly right. And also, Nichols is, like Friedkin is another one of the guys who's a mentor to me. I never worked with him, but a real mentor and an inspirational guy. A culturalist.
Right.
You know, Nichols has a voracious appetite, as does Scorsese, and to assimilate stuff in the world.
Right.
And I think that's what makes. He always says, "Pretend the Nazis are chasing you, and you'll be successful in anything." That's his black joke on it. But man, I don't think I've met a brighter guy. I don't think I ever met a brighter guy or a funnier guy.
What an extraordinary experience, though, that particular production must have been for the young Peter Will.
Yeah, Streamers was... The play of Streamers, first of all, is damn near perfect and very easy to tweak the wrong way. Everybody has to be at the room at the same time while murders go down that are mistaken identity, mistaken intentions of white lies, in order such that the bottom line is nobody wants to go to Vietnam and die.
Right.
So this room is like a microcosm of survival of young people that sadly ends up in a horror, the likes of which at the end of it, which is the power of it, which is what Mike specifically and brilliantly tapped, people walk out going, how did that happen? How did we arrive at that?
Right.
That was the shock of Streamers. And I have to tell you, Kevin, I saw the mayor of New York, everybody from aristocracy to Mabel Mercer, fucked up by it.
Yeah.
I mean, one night after another, they were I remember that John Lithgow came in backstage and he couldn't speak. And it was because there's no answer.
Right.
Because it's 6 people. It's almost like the Shakespeare's Julius Caesar. Everyone's working out of their own conscience and what they think is best for their own legitimate survival. Nobody's got an angle.
Right.
You know, nobody's working it as an agenda. One guy's just trying to have fun. That's misunderstood. That's over-defended. That doesn't be interpreted right by a guy who can't figure out 2 white guys. The black guy can't tell the truth to that black guy about what this white cultural problem is. And the black guy feels betrayed. And the only thing he knows how to do is stab somebody.
Of course.
And when they walked out of that play, man, you know, I remember Baryshnikov or Elliot Feld's ballet team came to see it, man. You know, Koch came to see it. The same uniform response to it, because there's no easy answer to it. That's Nichols. That was Nichols' way of tweaking that thing such that the air never went. And he came back every month, you know.
Really?
Yeah. He would miss one time he came back every 2 months. But he'd come back and tweak it. And he says to this day, possibly one of, if not the 2 greatest things I've been involved with ever.
Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. And that was something to do, man. God. But that was after Kazan. That was right around the time of Kazan and after Uta Hagen. Those people had really jolted me into...
How difficult was it initially to get into the Actors Studio?
It was really a bitch. Those days, there was only 270 members of the Actors Studio. The Actors Studio, you have to remember, is not like an amalgam of movie stars like it is now. The Actors Studio was a workshop of professional actors. It wasn't a training ground. You went off and studied with Sandy Meisner or Uda, something like that. Stella Adler, that's who you studied with. The Actors Studio was an elite group of New York serious people that started with Cheryl Crawford, you know, and Bobby Lewis. And so I'd done a short play at Ensemble Studio Theater. The Tennessee Williams came to see, man. It was like,
what?
Yeah, man. I performed twice for Tennessee. Yeah, it was a thrill, man. You know, if anything that grabs me, I thought, I performed twice for Tennessee Williams. Who came backstage and said, how's that side, baby? That's how he talked. He talked almost like Miles Davis, except there's like a couple of bourbons in him.
Yeah.
And John Stix, who directed it, was Kazan's protege in the director's unit. And he said, I'd really like you to do a final. I said, I don't have to do one of those beginning things. He says, no, you do a final. But I have to talk to Kazan, and Kazan would bring you in under my auspices. So I did a final, and the first thing I did was I went and got some material that I'd done in Uda's class from a Philip Roth book called Letting Go, because Uda loved doing book stuff that had never been tapped by actors, with a whole lot of physical life, about a honky blue-collar guy in Gary, Indiana, you know, who has to do iron sheets and all, and feed babies and everything all through this scene. You have 1 minute to set up and 3 minutes for a scene. And my judges were, I worked on that thing for 4 months, man. I even rented a space on 8th Avenue and taped off the Actors Studio stage.
Wow.
Because a guy hit me and says, okay, here's your judges. Arthur Penn, Eli Wallach, Elia Kazan, Lee, Ann Jackson, Rip Torn, Ellen Burstyn, and Geraldine Page. And those are going to be your judges. I said, well, I might as well slit my wrist now, because I'm not going to go act for those people.
No.
But Closer had a momentum of its own, and it was great.
Well, it sounds like you rolled up your sleeves and said, the only way to do this is to do the work and the prep, and that's it. That's it. That's really it. It's the doing of it. If you get inside your head, you're fucked. So just do the work.
If you doubt it in a second, like if I doubt this PhD now that I'm doing, you know, I'll just join this. I join it. There's a great organization. It's part of the UN. You know, I was just exposed to it in a Muslim Jewish American conference that Howard Gordon took me to, and I'm just segueing now into this, in Cairo, in Alexandria. Celebrated the opening of the Alexandria Library a year ago. I got to play jazz with Egyptian guys, man, and you know, I'm looking at like, if I saw these guys speak about the tenacity of faith. Not that I'm a real religious guy, and there are so many. This place called Religions for Peace. It's imams, rabbis, rebbes, Buddhists of stature who meet and have solvable problems. And they bring up faith.
Right.
They have solvable social problems. And I just kind of decided to be part of them. You know, I don't know where this is going to go. But if I reflect on it for a second,
you're fucked.
If I look at the world really, you know, through the binoculars, I'm fucked. And if I think of this PhD, I'm fucked. And if you think about, like, okay, how am I going to make a contribution to the world other than my own 2-foot world and getting an acting gig and, you know, directing Sons of Anarchy and, you know, having a home and all this stuff and doing your show, you know, which is the Peter Weller world of daily stuff. But how am I going to play a bigger game if I really think of the possibilities of failure in it?
Right.
I'd never get out of bed.
So when you said to your friend, I might as well slit my wrist, then you just went off and taped up the floor and
that's when I taped up the floor. And that, you know, fear, but you take, you know, there's a great Zen adage, you take it with you. You can't beat the fear.
No.
You have to take it like a friend.
Yeah.
And go, yeah, I'm going to go do this. Why am I doing this? Just slap yourself and say, well, because for whatever you can chastise Kazan for and his problem in HUAC or whatever, Kazan is an instrumental and seminal contributor to the American stage and screen, and a huge influence on Nichols and everybody that follows after that.
Right.
And I'm going to go do this. So, and then did it. And then Kazan, I did a couple of improvs with the Kazan, which were like, you know, Kazan says something to you. You know it already, but when Kazan said it to you, it's like a laser hitting you right before the eyes, man. Man, I watched him critique a scene on the Seagull. It's right before Treplev. I think it's the Seagull. Treplev kills himself at the end of the Seagull. And the guy's writing, good actor. Kazan jumps up on the stage and says, what are you writing? You're scribbling. He turns around and he says, you know, this is not a method thing that you got to find out your inner person and write. All you have to do is write. You're writing a suicide note. Everybody in this room has thought about suicide. If you're over 20, if you're over 15, you thought about suicide. Write that. Write that. That's a reality. Do something, you know, we thought, God, that's simple.
Yeah. Actually live in the moment instead of acting.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and but he would always demystify the psychobabble bullshit of method. Right. That was the great thing about it. Just get to what you want and what's in your way. I mean, when Kazan would say it, it was, I don't know what it is. Maybe I was endowing Kazan with the facility to make it clear to me, but he had a way of saying it.
If you can articulate it with passion, conviction, and experience.
And shortly.
And
concisely.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Editing. Getting back to it. I will tell you as a storyteller my whole life, it's all in the editing. And as a director, you would tell us that editing is the final rewrite.
I never heard that, but that's a good saying, man. But what I want to ask you about is, can you tell me what the Sex Monster is?
Is that the movie you wanted to ask me about?
Yeah.
Yes.
Because, you know, once in a while I walk around and somebody will say, Kevin Pollak, he was in the Sex Monster.
No one will say that to you.
I'll say, wait a minute. Yeah, the Sex Monster. No, okay. So,
yeah,
can you? I'd like to know what this is.
Do you just know the title? That's all you know about it?
I only know the title.
And the title is provocative enough that you felt.
Look, you know,
I might have done some porn.
You know, Usual Suspects, Few Good Men. And by the way, I just want to also tell you, I got to say this: that my wife is a huge fan of grumpy old men and grumpier old men. She comes from a farm in Atlanta. And those are her two favorite movies.
Mathau and Lemon, Burgess Meredith. What are we talking about here?
So I am doing this movie in Louisiana in December, and right before we met. Mm-hmm. And she says, "Honey, you just gotta watch this movie. These are the funniest movies ever." So I take them both. You know, a lot of downtime on a set.
You hadn't seen them.
I said, "Okay, Pollak is in this, but this is the romantic thing opposite Daryl Hannah." You know,
you're having a problem with that?
Okay, I'm gonna go with this. I just saying. I'm not saying it because I told you when we met for dinner. That is superb work, man.
Well, here's the deal.
It's effortless.
There's a absolute genuine vein of pure fear that exists in your being when Walter Matthau and Jack Lemmon, two of your lifelong heroes, are present. You talk about not wanting to get caught acting.
Yeah.
First of all, from my understanding, no one since, certainly of my generation, is allowed to do what Matthau and Lemmon were allowed to do as actors.
You might do it on a sitcom, but you can't do it in a feature film. I don't see it.
Right, but also within the same career, that abject silliness balanced with the most intense drama ever. And in some ways being considered marquee names. So So how many marquee names are there that are allowed to do those two spectrums?
Yeah.
So for me, these are not just historical landmarks in the history of show business, but they're personal mentors and heroes beyond compare. So whatever I'm doing in that movie, it is driven by
terror,
not wanting to get caught.
Yeah.
And nothing else. And then also those great little. Did you ever had the pleasure of working with Lemon? You know, he was famous for saying "magic time" right before every take. And
I never worked with him. I met him on a golf course.
one time I'm always on the golf course with him. One time I'm doing off-camera lines. First time I'm doing off-camera lines for him. And he says, "Are you sure, kid, you don't mind doing the off-camera lines?" And I said, "Of course I don't mind." "Well, yeah, you know, Marilyn never liked it." And I thought, he's talking about Marilyn Monroe. Every story, every reference that they had was through the history of, you know, all the magic time.
Yeah.
But I will answer your Sex Monster question only because...
Listen, I envy you that, though. I just want to say, extraordinarily effortless, funny, touching work in both those films, man. I was really impressed.
Thank you.
And I envy you being with those two cats. I acted with Daryl Hannah. By the way, Daryl Hannah's the best screen kisser I ever kissed.
I'm not going to argue.
She's absolutely there, 100% present, and doesn't try to act a kiss at all. And I don't really. Daryl Hannah's beautiful and fun. She's not my particular phone booth chick, you know. Like, I says I'm not a blonde guy, but she's a
Me
stunner.
neither.
Yeah. But when she kissed me, I went, "Oh yeah."
Well, now you probably had a very lusty romantic kiss, whereas I had a very sweet.
You had a couple of sweet kisses.
But they're sweet,
Yeah.
as opposed to lust.
I had one kiss with her, and I said without a doubt, you're the finest, the best kisser on screen.
Maybe she wanted to impress you, Peter. Maybe she
I don't think
wanted
she
you to
did. I
take
think
notice.
she just kissed as she kissed, and that's why she did.
Ah.
Because I did kiss another I've kissed some serious
Yeah,
chicks.
you have.
Too.
Yeah, you have.
On
You have.
No, it's on screen.
Yeah.
And several times they wanted to...
Trying to do something.
Yeah. And it doesn't go.
Trying to act a kiss.
Yeah. Trying to act a kiss.
Talking about Kazan.
Yeah. Trying to act a kiss.
How about just kissing?
Daryl was superb.
Yeah.
But anyway, tell me about Sex Monster.
I will only because I ultimately have to ask about your very first meeting with Verhoeven. So in order to get that out of you, I will tell you a little something about Sex Monster. Sex Monster is a perfect example of no good deed goes unpunished. I had a writer-director friend who sat at this table once, who did a wonderful piece a few years back called The Upside of Anger with Joan Allen.
Michael?
Michael Binder.
Yeah.
So Michael Binder,
He's a talented
longtime friend from stand-up comedy and then from films, Indian Summer and the like, and so on, calls up and says, "I wrote this movie and I'm going to be the lead in it." And I said, "Mike, what's the matter with you? Do you want no one to see this? What do you mean you're going to be the lead in it?" He said, "Yeah, I'm going to try this. I got to do it. I have to do that Woody Allen thing. I have to be the writer, director, and the lead. It's something I've always wanted to do. Woody was a hero, and I got to do it." And I said, "Well, then no one will see it, Mike. Let me be your friend, and tell you the truth."
You shot him down already before he even got up to...
100%. He said, "Will you read the script?" I said, "Of course I'll read the script. But, I've got to be honest with you. I'm assuming I'm going to love the script. So I'm already there. I love the script, and now I'm as your friend telling you, get someone who they can put on a marquee that will see your brilliant work as a writer and a director. You're not going to have Woody Allen's career. There's a reason there's a Woody Allen or an Albert Brooks. It doesn't happen. It really doesn't happen. So you want it to be you, Albert Brooks, and Woody Allen. Is that what the future is? Is that what people will say, the Mount Rushmore of the filmmakers who act, write, and star? Are you the third one, Mike? So I'm laying all this out on him. He goes, "Just read the fucking script." I said, "All right, I'll read the script." I read the script, and the part is his proctologist, and I get to shove something up his ass. And I said, "I'm in." No, it was a favor to my friend who wanted to act.
Was it his proctologist, really?
It really was. In fact, back then they had the thing where he would look down the camera that was up Mike's ass, and I said, "Have you seen the new Boxster? Nice car." So yeah, that was his fantasy to do this movie, and he ended up doing like 3 of them. Is my camera working finally? Yeah? Let me look into it. No one saw any of those 3 films, and by no one I mean no one. No one. Mikey. So no good deed goes unpunished. So I do this part, and then it has to. Then it's just a name, Sex Monster. And then I have people that I respect go, I'm going to need to know more about this movie you did called Sex Monster.
I didn't know that Binder did. And
Mike Binder stars along with Mariel Hemingway. And a couple of Mike's friends, such as myself, said, yes, Mikey, we'll do you a favor. And we are in his movie, Sex Monster.
You know what? I'm going to rent that movie.
No. What? What's the matter with you?
Because
you
because
have
I'm
a
fan
life.
Of,
you
because,
have things.
Because I'm a fan of yours and I'm a fan of his.
Then I begged you not to see this on both of those accounts.
I would see it, burn them.
See Indian Summer. That's a beautifully sweet film that he wrote and directed that I'm in with Diane Lane, Paxton,
I hear that's
Sam Raimi has played a part fantastically. Beautifully, wonderfully.
Alan Arkin.
And the great Alan Arkin. Have you worked with Alan?
No.
Let me tell you something. I'm going to ask this next question as Alan because this is a question not from the interwebs. We're going to get to them next. If we don't ask, by the way,
that's the best Alan Arkin I've ever.
Just warming up. If we don't ask one of Elaine's questions, you're going to hear about it later. Just so you know. All right. So, okay. Damn you! I can't believe I can't.
Verhoeven. You want to ask about
Verhoeven? It is about Verhoeven. I can't believe you just right over the directorial debut getting an Oscar nomination. We haven't even discussed what that feels like, or what it's like to play jazz with Jeff Goldblum, the super hunk Jew, as my fiancée calls him.
Jeff, he's great.
Three Guys from Italy was the name of the original group, the musical.
Jeff, you ever seen Ed Begley do Jeff? It's one of the great kicks ever.
Oh, yeah?
Ask Ed Begley to do Goldblum.
You must be able to do a little.
What, Jeff? Yeah, Jeff is great. He goes good. We had a great time, Jeff and me. Jeff and I formed a band with Peter Harris, guitar player, who was Chuck Mangioni's guitar player, and also Bruce Hornsby's, who won a couple of Grammys with both those guys. And we were playing people's living rooms.
At parties.
Yeah, parties.
And then eventually...
Miles Davis said backstage in New Orleans, said, Ed heard that we played and people knew we played, and I played on the Tonight Show a bunch and shit. And I said, when you and Goldblum gonna get out of them fucking living rooms and get a band? I said, Miles, how are we gonna get a band? And he went, buy one, you got the fucking money. So I go back to Jeff, I said, Miles says we just ought to like pay for a band. And Jeff said, well, where are we gonna play? What's the venue? Yikes, you know, people are gonna come and actually, then we might get reviewed and might...
Then it becomes a thing.
So yeah, then it becomes a thing, so we didn't. And then 3 years later, I'm doing Mighty Aphrodite, and I was telling that Miles story to Woody. And Woody is a real hipster. We forget, and I forgot that Woody was the Village Gate lead guy, the mic guy at the Village Gate for 6 years.
House MC?
Yeah, baby. And he introduced Ornette Coleman's first gig, Eric Dolphy, Coltrane's first gig there. You know, he went through the list of fantastic modernists, Yusef Lateef, all these guys are like these astounding modal people that essentially Miles gave birth to. But Woody was the guy. And I said, and Woody's a huge fan of really sophisticated modal jazz, right? So, you know, we're talking about jazz. I tell him that story, and he says, well, yeah, that's what you got to do. You got to do it. You could do Woody better than me, but he goes, you got to get a band. And I said, but Woody, where are we going to play? And he said, find a venue and pick their night where they make no money.
That's it. Him Monday night at Michael's.
That's right. I said, Michael's was their dead night.
Sure.
And then it will be a hot night, but make sure you get paid. I said, like for food. He said, no, get paid something. Even if it's $100. He said, it'll be the happiest $100 you ever made.
Right.
Because you get paid for playing music. And I said, yeah, and there's chicks and things. And he goes, more chicks are at a musician than an actor. Walked away. And indeed, there are. You know, girls like musicians, you know. And so Jeff and I started at Le Petit Four.
I can't believe Goldblum would do something to possibly meet women. This sounds bizarre to me.
It's so antithetical to him, isn't it? You know, it's not his MO at all.
No.
No, he steers away from women. He has no interest in
Never about the vagina.
No. And that's how we started. And I know he plays now in some place. I play at the Grand Havana Room once a month. But when he did,
You still do?
Yeah,
Really?
yeah, at the Grand Havana Room.
Somebody said, Elaine said that on Mondays Goldblum is.
I don't know what his venue is now, but I should certainly go in and sit in
He was
with.
at the Argyle for years.
Yeah, that was our band. Yeah, at the Argyle. Yeah, I played at the Argyle. We played on. We had several venues. We would always get hammered by. They would make a lot of money, and then it was very hard to get the musicians back on stage after the break.
Why would that be?
Because Goldblum and I had some cachet, and chicks would show up, and these guys. You know, the reason why professional. You know, our band and my band now and his band are all 100% session geniuses.
Right.
And they like playing with us because A, we let them play what they want. They want to play freedom jazz dance, yeah. And second of all, there's chicks. And so that's why it's hard to get them back after the break. But I don't know what the venue is now where he's playing.
How often are you at the Grand Havana?
Once a month. Yeah, about once a month.
We're going to need to check that out.
Are you a cigar smoker now?
I had one of the first boxes with
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Smiley.
Stu Smiley.
Is that right? Do you still smoke them or no?
I don't,
Did you quit?
but boy, I loved them.
Did you quit them? Is that it?
Yeah.
How many did you smoke a day?
Well, I had to quit them. I could still smoke them, but I had to quit them because I did the cigarettes at one point as well.
Oh, you
and
can't do that,
That
man.
had to stop.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the only way to do that was a hypnotist, believe it or not. And that was magic.
Yeah.
That's magic. Tapping into your brain like that, there's some fucking power in that.
Yeah.
And so while I have two humidors that were full until some of the people outside this room smoked 3 one night at a party, I opened up on New Year's Eve. We had, I don't know, 80-something folks to the house for New Year's, moved into this new home, blah, blah, blah. Hey, you got a couple humidors? Yeah, smoke what you want. I quit. 75 cigars later,
two.
where the fuck are all my
Lots of them.
Cubans?
Oh, really?
Yeah, but I
People
was
were taking them
thrilled.
to go.
I was thrilled to share them. You know,
Yeah.
that's always the thing with great cigars, anyways. And also, if because I'd given them up.
I smoke 2 a day, but now that I'm going to have a kid, I used to smoke in my office in our place, but I was smoking in the office, and I was smoking in the car, and I was smoking around the wife. So
Not an indoor thing.
cutting back, man. It's all cutting back.
I can remember. You talk about a new education, learning about the seeds and the.
Yeah, but that's obsessive.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like learning wine and coffee. Just explaining to you guys outside about Neapolitan coffee, man. You get into that, it's nonstop. So
All right. So first sit down with the Verhoeven. The very first.
Verhoeven.
Very first.
why aren't we shooting? Why aren't we shooting?
Literally, that was his thing on the set.
Yeah, man, he's in 6th gear. I mean, he's a really bright guy too, and also a medieval scholar and all sorts of wonderful shit.
When you met him, by the time.
You know what? Rick Nacita, my old friend, dearest, first friend in business, and still dear friend, sent me the script. Said this is a robot movie. That's all he said. And I thought, who's directing it? I said Paul Verhoeven. I'd seen every Verhoeven movie, and I loved Verhoeven. And Fourth Man had just gotten him an Oscar thing. And so this is like the 8th or 9th director they'd gone to. So I read this. I said, this is going to be an opera. It's going to be an opera, and it's going to be a metaphor for something unbelievable. And it's going to probably be the Job, Golem, Christ amalgam.
In the right hands.
Yeah, in the right hand, in the right hands. Because if you put that in the hands of some orange juice head from Malibu, man.
You're fucked.
Yeah. I could mention a few names, but it would turn into a lot of gunshots. And
We all
everything
know
else.
who you're talking.
Yeah. But I sat down with Verhoeven, and I don't audition, and it's not because I don't audition. You know, I'm bullshitting my way into a career. I auditioned for once for Joe Papp, and that's about it. And because I don't read, I can't really send it to you, you know, on a read. It's like a myop. It's.
So when you audition actors as a director,
you know, I watch them a little bit, and then I tell the caster, I really like that guy. And they say, why do you like that? I said, I think he'll give me, and you know, you could tell if they'll create something for you.
right?
But some of them don't read shit well. I mean, just hired a guy for Sons of Anarchy. He's a horrible reader, but he was making a life happen with this guy.
Right.
And he dropped his sides actually, and then he just kept plowing through it. And I said, that's the guy.
Yeah.
So I don't do that well. But Verhoeven wanted me to read, and no, I'm not going to read. So we met again. I said, look, I know that you're going to make this. Like,
Well, also you had stuff he could see already. You had
but you know what?
Firstborn. You had.
I had a lot of stuff you could
Yeah.
see, but he wanted everybody to go through his regimen.
Well, that's a power play. That's not about being an artist, is it?
I think you're right. But I didn't say that in the room.
No, you didn't.
No, because I wanted the gig.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I think that's exactly
So
right.
how do you get
Look,
around?
all auditions really do, unless you don't have any idea who this person is convince you why they're wrong.
Yeah.
You're just shutting the door.
Talk your way out of this job, please.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
So he wanted you to jump through the hoop, and you said,
I said, I don't do it, man. I don't do it. I said, listen, I know you're going to make some extraordinary personal film here about resurrection, about progress, slamming the common man.
Corporate America.
Because that's what you've done in every film, whether it's Spetters or Soldier of Orange or Fourth Man or whatever, with a lot of imagery, a lot of medieval imagery, and I want to be part of it, but I ain't going to read these lines. I'm not going to do a phony voice for you in this thing. And he grabbed his hair. Finally, about the fourth time I meet him,
he was confounded.
We're having this thing at some funky restaurant in La Brea that John Davison liked. He says, okay, well, get up and walk around the room. Can you walk around the room? So I got up and walked around the room. I didn't have any mime or anything on me, but I walked around the room. He says, okay, so next thing I know is I get this offer for chump change, essentially, at that time. Day after that, Rick calls up and says, you did a movie for Dino De Laurentiis and his Aurelio De Laurentiis, the one I was doing in Rome. Dino wants you for his remake of King Kong, which he made.
The one with Jeff Bridges?
Is that 80s?
Yeah.
70s.
70s.
No, this is the 80s.
Son of Kong?
No, it's
the King Kong movie with Jeff Bridges
That's 70s.
was
definitely
definitely
70s.
This is
definitely
86.
Dino De Laurentiis.
Yeah, this is 86.
Okay,
He's
so
gonna
he
do
wants
it
to
again.
redo it.
Yeah, he was. I don't know who ended up in it, but I go in to meet Dean. He says, "Will you go meet Dino?" No, I said, "I'm not going to do it. I'm going to do this robot movie for Verhoeven. I'm going through this." No, go meet Dino. Go meet Dino. Dino loves you, and Dino taking me to. Dino's the guy who really instructed me about a lot of the places around Amalfi Coast.
I'll bet.
And so I go into Dino, and he goes, "Peter, how much money you want now to work to this Dutch asshole? How much money you want? You tell me." I don't know. I'm thinking like 80 million.
How much you got on you?
But that's what I wanted. All I was, when somebody says, "How much money do you want?" You inflate, bro. You become a balloon.
Yeah, your brain just became a Macy's Day float.
Yeah, exactly, a Macy's Day float. And I actually was having a legit conversation. I said, well, Dino, I guess a lot of money. I guess I'd take some money. This is just so, what an apocryphal fucking conversation I'm having with him. Then I walk out the door and go, the fuck was that?
Yeah.
And so I said, I'm going to do Verhoeven's movie. And I have to say, doing Verhoeven's movie, which I found out that we'd had a conflict about something, there were delays in the production, so it was magical all the way through, and thank God Mike Medavoy and Bernstein kind of put the kibosh on it, because Verhoeven was like going nuts about something, and I was going nuts about this suit, which was genius. I want to say that right now. Rob Boutine's suit, and Stefan Dupuis and all those makeup guys and the suit guys were gifted, except there were logistical problems with the internal working of it, fitting the movement, and we had to kind of get together on a weekend and bring the guy who taught me all the movement, Moni Yakin, who's Israeli-French gifted mime from Juilliard, down to revamp.
You worked with him quite a long time on that.
Yeah, but the beautiful thing about him is this: what I plugged in Moni is that we had designed this very liquid, sort of staccato kind of liquid form,
Right.
And the suit was like big, huge, and the inner suit was huge. So have this hit loggerheads. We're shooting without the suit, and then the suit comes, and then we're trying to fit the suit to the guy and so forth, and shoot at the same time. And Verhoeven has, I kind of go, what's going on here? And Verhoeven has his little meltdown, and I had my little meltdown, and then thank God Mike Medavoy calls me up in the night and says, listen, heal this thing with Verhoeven, man, because this might go south. And now he doesn't trust you, he's afraid of you, something like that. I said, okay, go Paul. I said, I'm your boy. He says, okay. And that Saturday, we worked on the suit, and I have to just tell you, a piece of great, it doesn't mean anything except to the film historiographer.
Please.
But Moni comes down, and he's the only calm voice. Everybody's panicking about what's going to work here. We're 2 weeks into a movie, great movie, and we don't know which way it's going to go. And Moni asked Rob, can you cut the armpits out of this? And this is the inner thing. because the outer thing is beautiful, but the inner thing that I got to work with this mime that I've done for 6 months now.
It's your skin.
Yeah. And so we work it, and it's now moving, and Moni says, okay, we have to talk. We have to throw out everything we did. I said, Moni, 6 months? He says, no. Don't throw it out. You have to slow it down. Slow it down. You make it huge, and you have to exaggerate. I said, it's phony. It's phony. I'm working this arm like boom, on the head, and it's phony. He says, no. I'll show you a movie. We get a movie. Just slow it down. It's just they'll buy it, but it's not like a lizard now. It's like almost like an Alec crocodile, right? So we do these tests and stuff, and I'm starting to get the feel of it, but it just feels operatic. It feels like I'm Pavarotti or something. Go back to this hotel. He gets, it's the age of VHS. Mm-hmm. Eisenstein's Ivan the Terrible.
Jesus.
He says, I want you to look at this. 3 hours long. It's an actor, mime, dancer named Nikolai Cherkasov. He says, you'll see this naturalistic film where everybody is naturalistic around it. But you see Cherkasov when they introduce Ivan, and he's like this. And he just stands there looking at you, man, and everything is this slow, deliberate, articulated, and it's a very sophisticated film. It's not like early silent, because everyone else is naturalistic, but everything he does is this huge, anticipated, and then articulated gesture. And I watch that thing all fucking weekend, man. And when you see it for 3 minutes, you think, that's the worst shit I've ever seen in my life. Then, 30 minutes into it, you're completely stoned by it.
Right.
And that's what I base that thing on, man. And then Verhoeven got on board with it, and it was swinging.
Well, what happens is there's a transition at some point where you accept the mechanical nature as opposed to fighting for the human inside.
Yeah, but you know what it did? The gift that it gave me is I couldn't figure out the human nature of Robocop at that point. I was so stuck on this fucking movement deal.
Right.
And I wasn't really paying attention to, gee, what's this life of this guy? I guess the movie's going to define that for me.
Right.
But once that happened, it became a beast. It really became the golem.
Right.
It became the great Hebraic tale of this thing that they conjure up, who's essentially an innocent, but they use him, and then they can't get rid of him because he expects to live on.
Right.
Or the great thing at the end of Blade Runner, Rutger Hauer's beautiful speech, that he's a machine, but they gave him a soul. Right. And that's what I found out of slowing down that movement. So, sometimes the Olivier thing works.
Yeah, but what's interesting is that you gave such humanity to the character Alex to begin with, Murphy.
Yeah.
Before he's
killed,
rebuilt.
Yeah, rebuilt.
Before the resurrection. That humanity is with the audience that they want to inhabit the robot with, the mechanism. They want that mechanism to have the soul and humanity that you gave Murphy. So that's the leap of faith the audience takes from beginning to end in that film.
They're waiting for it to reappear.
Well, they're counting on it to reappear,
that's right.
But they're giving you the benefit and rooting for you.
Right.
Because of what you established by giving them Murphy as a human.
You're absolutely right. They're endowing that, but that's the thing that scared me.
But as an actor, you've got to let go of all that.
Yeah, man, I got to let it go.
There's no humanity. No. You're a fucking machine.
Yeah. And there's a beautiful thing that Verhoeven did. I mean, kudos to Verhoeven, and why an American probably wouldn't have gotten it is that I don't know what Mike Miner and Ed Neumeyer had an original intention, but usually when you watch a film and someone goes into their past, right, it's the physical sort of impetus that begin the memory.
Right.
You see the guy in the blue hat. Oh, the guy in the blue hat makes me think of it. So there's something visual that begins the trail back, right?
Right.
Okay, so there's a moment when Nancy Allen says, Murphy, it's you, because she sees the gun twirling, right? I say the lines to Paul McCrane, and he goes, I know you, right? I said, I look at him, who are you, and shit. That stuff was supposed to, in my mind and a couple people's mind, happen before the dreams.
Right.
Right? Murphy, it's you, I know you, right? And all of a sudden, this robot starts to have this physical... Verhoeven goes, no, I remember sitting in my suite. I said, why not? He goes, we put it first. Put the dreams first. I said, you're going to explain this to me now? Now bear with me, because this is so obvious to myth
Right.
and great storytelling, but not obvious to the trope of 21st century movie making, because we want to spoon-fed all this shit. He says, no, because the one thing that they cannot take is your soul.
Right.
And the soul wakes
Creates
up.
those dreams.
The soul wakes up on its own because it is God-given or earth-given or myth-given or whatever the hell you want to say, but it's given by the supernatural, not the natural.
Right.
And then it is borne out in evidence in a material world.
Right. That's pretty great.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
And you know, when he's explaining it to me, I think, that's pretty highfalutin. But in the movie, I look back at that movie and I go, what a fucking stroke that is, man.
Yeah.
That thing wakes up, and subsequently, people are really waiting for Murphy to come back.
Yeah, and
sit
also, clearly in retrospect, but boy, oh boy, was he in tune to the nature of the people watching the storytelling, which is, if the dreams happened first, then they weren't coaxed.
Yeah.
They came from organic and a real place. And now I don't feel manipulated
Yeah.
by the co-stars telling the machine, you're a man. So now as an audience, I'm thinking, well, of course he's going to remember this, right? If I see dreams first, I'm like, holy fuck, Murph's back. Now I'm rooting for Murphy as opposed to...
I never thought of that, man. Never thought of that. And maybe that's the thing where I go, oh shit, in a lot of movies now. You know, that I go, of course the guy's going to, you know, slap the chick and put on the sunglasses and walk out. Because they just told me he was, right?
Yeah, but I remember, I'm glad you mentioned the dream part, because so powerful that their dreams come first.
Yeah.
Without question. I don't want to. I mentioned the Buckaroo at the very, very top. And
I don't know what that
you,
movie's about. You can explain it to me?
No, I can't. No one can.
And
that's the beauty of it. Yeah. You've got to let go of logic.
Yes.
That's what Goldblum's for, to be honest with you.
That's what Goldblum's part in that movie is for, too.
Now, this is a very astute question, because it's kind of was this introduction for you as an actor to being #1 on the call sheet, Buckaroo? I think so. Maybe?
No, I'd done one of unknown origin, Peter Rieger's favorite film.
Unknown origin.
Yeah, about the rat, about chasing a rat in your own house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the question is, was the character Buckaroo Banzai originally written as a singer and a trumpet player, or is that something you brought to the part?
He was written as a guitar player.
Okay.
And I don't think the singing or the trumpet playing was in there.
Right.
It was sort of like a mixture of Adam Ant. I took a little of Mike Nichols from it. You know, Mike Nichols' whirlwind intelligence.
Right.
And Adam Ant and Jacques Cousteau. Those were sort of...
That's pretty fucking heavy.
Those are sort of my archetypes for the thing, yeah. But no, I stuck in, they wanted to sing, and I said, okay.
Well, the reason I ask about #1 on the call sheet, why it's appropriate to this question, or so I believe, 6.5 motherfucking hours of prosthetic makeup. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that's for 27 days, yeah. It's the longest facial prosthetic, I think, still.
Easily.
Yeah.
I did 3.5 hours once and said, this can never happen again. I don't care if you back up the money truck. This can never. So #1 on the call sheet, the character plays guitar, and as an actor, fine, but as let's hang a movie on your shoulders guy.
Yeah.
What's that Kevlar feel like initially at that point in your life when you say, with casualness, no doubt in your tone, I don't play guitar, but I'd love to play
guitar.
You some jazz trumpet instead?
Well, I played some blues guitar, but not like...
with the same...
Yeah. Nah, not with the same...
freedom?
No, not with the same facility I played a trumpet.
Right.
But, wow. That movie had so much momentum that I was just caught up in it. I never thought about it once. I never thought about not being. I never thought afraid.
Right.
I certainly didn't feel the anticipation about auditioning with the Actors Studio, like I just told you, is doing that movie. And it was just absolutely a ball of fun, man. It was so much fun.
That's all it looks like, is a ridiculous amount of fun.
Yeah. I mean, don't you find there's certain movies... I was having a very difficult time in my life. I'd broken off a a long engagement, and then I went off to do Naked Lunch. And Naked Lunch was my favorite book in college. It was a huge influence on my life, Burroughs and Burroughs' Trip. And I actually written a letter to Cronenberg asking him to play that. I'd sought it out. And then I was at the Cannes Film Festival, Robocop 2, and I saw the publicity for Naked Lunch, and I thought, well, that's one ain't going to happen. I got back, and Cronenberg called me and said, let's talk about it. But I was in a dour and dark place that I didn't think. You know, you're breaking off a serious relationship 30 days before marriage and busted this thing out, but still the harbingers of doom, man, are riding on you, you know, like banshees, you know, of love horror that you're never going to, am I ever going to be free?
No.
And have a nice time holding hands with a girl again, man.
Right.
And then I go off to Toronto, which is a great city, but it ain't Paris, you know.
As much as they want it to be.
Yeah, it's Anglican. And I'm doing this thing, and it was very accessible to me. It was the right movie at the right time.
Right.
I don't think I could have done Buckaroo Banzai then.
Right.
You like to think that you're ready for any role, and every actor thinks you can play any part, and it's not true, and you're not ready for any role. And certain roles come your way when you're having a great time. And in 1983, I was having a ball.
Right.
And Buckaroo Banzai happens, and I have more of a ball. You know, in 1990, I'm having the most miserable time I can remember as an adult.
Perfect timing.
And Naked Lunch comes along about a guy who kills his wife and can't get out of it and tries to artistically create a via out of that horror and realizes he can't, which is all that story's about. And that was perfect for me. So it's interesting that nothing really scared me about either one of those. What really scared me, I just have to say, is directing for Kurt Sutter on Sons of Anarchy, where you have 8 truly gifted actors. You know, you get Ron Perlman, Katie Seagal, and Kim Coates. Those people have been around.
I don't want to hear
the block,
about
man.
Kim Coates. I love him to death.
Is he the best?
I love Kimmy to death.
Is he just one of the great guys?
Yeah.
And he'll crank up for you.
Oh, boy.
On and on and on and on.
Yeah. His
And-
energy is very
yeah.
difficult to keep up with.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, when everybody wants to go home, you know, in a TV series, you've done it, I've done it, you want to go home, especially if you're number 1 or number 2 or number 3 on a call sheet.
16 hours later.
And then Kim will crank it, he'll load the shotgun and go. So that scared me, getting with those guys.
Right.
Because the first thing I was doing was with all 6 of them.
Jesus.
In a sweatbox. That's scary.
Yeah.
Where they're going to down me with whatever, where they think I'm, you know, like hobnobbing, you know, what am I doing? Slumming is, but directing television is one of the great thrills to me. I love directing television. As a matter of fact, if somebody said, okay, no more acting for you, only directing television, or the odd feature, you know, should God wish it, but I do that. I do second. I do in a second. There's something about the pressure and the time element of cranking up in 7 days something that you think is wonderful storytelling, where the money faucet's not on.
Right. It's guerrilla.
It's guerrilla, yeah.
If you can't feel alive doing that.
Oh, man. That's why, you know, I turned to these guys, I said, this is the best time I've had in movies I can remember. Oh, come on, you've had this. I said, no, there's something about a feeling alive.
Yeah. I saw this in Slattery when we went to visit him and he was directing this. I didn't see him when he was acting. When we visited the set of Mad Men and he was directing an episode. And there was an energy about him that I hadn't seen ever before.
Yeah.
When he was just acting.
I love it, man.
Holy
I love
shit.
it, love it, love it, love it.
Yeah.
You're just in 6th gear. And by the way, that's something I got out of Verhoeven. I really got that out of Verhoeven. Because Verhoeven hits the ground. He doesn't warm up. So we're going to shoot this little scene just to get the crew going, man. He is in 6th gear, man, when he hits it. And I made a note. I said, wow, if I ever get behind the camera, that's a lesson in spades about how to hit the floor.
Take it on first.
Yeah, yeah. Just start, you know, putting on the jet engine, man.
Right. Jamie, we're going to Positano, apparently.
Yeah. You're going to Positano.
We have a home to stay on overlooking the Mediterranean.
And by the way, my wife and I love to give it to friends. I'm saying that on the air and go because we like it open. We like friends in it. It all works.
We're just going so we can air it out. It gets a little damp.
That's right. That's right.
It gets a little damp if you box it up.
Yeah. We want you to go and air it out. By the way, you can fly nonstop to Naples now during the summer or the fall.
I heard people are from Napoli. Her ancestry
really?
is from
Yes.
Napoli.
Can you tell? Can
Home
I be
of
any
the thieves.
darker?
Look at that guinea tan.
I know.
Look, if you have one more thing to say, I just want to say
Absolutely,
about
please.
the envy I have for people being Mediterranean. It doesn't matter whether you are Arabic, Palestinian, Jewish, if you're Moroccan, if you're from Gibraltar, the Canary Islands, I don't give a shit, Egyptian, Sicilian, Greek, Yugoslav. There's something, we now know that our DNA did not come from Sumatra, man. That civilization burned out. It didn't come from South Africa, that civilization burned out. It wasn't from Java. It was from the Mediterranean. It was from that either Upper Nile or Mesopotamia. That's our DNA. That's where doesn't matter whether you're Asian, African. Our DNA starts there, in the Mediterranean.
With that guinea tan.
Yeah, with that guinea tan. So I just want to say this. I'm the Welsh, Saxon,
Yes.
German, French, white guy.
Yeah.
And when I first saw the Mediterranean, I almost wept. I don't know what it was. I said, okay, this is too corny. It's a boring northern white guy seeing the Mediterranean. It's like a guy going to Miami the first time. It's too corny. Okay. In a PhD seminar 2 years ago, a guy named Jeffrey Simcox, a wonderful guy from Oxford, came to UCLA some years ago, taking historiography, which is the history of history. It's how different civilizations have treated history. It used to be all the famous guys and the famous deeds. Then in the 1800s, you get into what is farms producing here? And then what's the social history? What's the political history? What's the geohistory, right?
Right.
So now they look at history in several different methodologies. So it's not just the French Revolution happened because people were starving, right?
Yeah, not just the conquerors who get to write.
Exactly right. So one of the methodologies is geohistory. And the first great geography history was written by a guy named Ferdinand Brodel of the Mediterranean. He's the first guy to include the Byzantine and Middle Eastern history with the Western European history and the Sahara as one geopolitical trade thing.
That son of a bitch.
Right. And now this seems so obvious to us, we go, well, duh. But it used to be separated. Okay, his intro, I'm reading it in French. You can, just read the intro in French. I read the rest in English. It's big books, 900 pages that are in 2 weeks, man. I read this thing, and I sat in a library, and I started to cry, man, in this library, around 19-year-olds or whatever. Is that guy having a breakdown or whatever? Because the first thing is he says in French, I am not from the Mediterranean. I'm from northern France. And I saw the Mediterranean when I was 8. And when I saw it, I wanted to be of it.
Yeah.
Is that a killer?
Yeah.
I sat there going, like,
That was
that's
me.
how I felt, man.
Yeah.
That's how I felt when I landed in Positano in 1981, man. I went, something has got me.
And you needn't look for...
And you're fortunate. My point is that you're lucky.
Yes.
You're so lucky.
Yes, it's in her DNA and her blood.
Yes.
Not just the DNA.
And those of us from Lennox, Scotland are not as fortunate or whatever now.
We're going to take you up. We're going to make plans. We're going to visit your...
Do it, man.
Yeah.
Do it. It's yours.
Be ridiculous not.
Is it near Clooney's place? Because we'll go with Richard Kind.
You have to drive the whole country.
No, Clooney's up in Bellagio.
He's in the north. Yeah.
You know Clooney?
A little. I will pay respect to him by saying we are friends, but in passing, hello.
I've never met Clooney, but it's good for him for having a place in Italy. And also, I got to say, Good Night and Good Luck is one of my favorite movies of the...
I think he is the perfect man, but I'll wait till he comes to the table to say it to his face. I mean, he really, just in terms of being able to be that accomplished in a profession, and then also to put it all on the line and actually have a cause and a fight instead of just some celebrity talking bullshit about politics.
Yeah.
All that stuff on top of
And he's got a new political movie coming out, about the Howard Dean.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so much there in that particular case.
Well, enough about Clooney. He's too good looking.
And back to, well,
That's his problem.
Yeah, he's proof again that on rare occasions God gives with both hands. So, I said an hour and a half. It's 2 hours. I can't thank you enough, honestly and truly.
It's been my pleasure.
And I hope you better understand about my association with the Sex Monster. I hope that's Think.
I'm going to. I'm not going to tell you what I'm going to.
Rent Indian Summer. You'll for a Mike Binder opus.
I know Indian Summer.
Yeah,
I know Upside of Anger. I'm going to call Binder as soon as I walk out of here.
He'd say, "What the fuck?"
I'm going to ask.
Pollock was right. You're not Woody Allen.
I'm going to ask Binder. Can I rent this movie? And he's going, "No, I'll blow up your house."
Yeah, I have 30 copies of Sex Monster in my trunk. I'll be happy to give you one.
Yeah, but not only that, I want to get one. Give me one, and I want you to sign it. And I'm going to go to Binder. I want to. So
before you are allowed out, two things take place. One of which, gather your thoughts. I will re-explain the Larry King game. There's your camera there. It'll be just a little throwaway improvisation.
Larry King.
There you go. You're on your way.
Hello, this is Larry King. My wife is 7 months pregnant. Went to the OBGYN. He said the conception date was December 19th. I didn't quite believe that. He said, well, maybe before that. But I wasn't with my wife for 3 weeks. So I got a word of doubt, a moment of doubt from the OBGYN, whereupon my wife turned to me and said, listen, husband, this is either your kid or it's Jesus Christ. Thank you.
There we go. All right, now I only ask that you sit there uncomfortably while I wrap things up to the folks at home and around the world watching however the fuck they might choose. Thank you.
Pleasure.
So very, very much. So, yeah, first of all, thanks to Kenny Chen, who worked feverishly throughout the last 2 hours trying to make the cameras work. Well, no, don't wave it off because I'm really used to seeing you sit on your ass and do nothing.
Yeah.
So the fact that you work nonstop.
Remember that one time he fell asleep?
I do, but he was hungover. Give him a break. No. I'm always grateful for Kenny's efforts, but today in particular, boy, did you not have a lot of time to sit down. So thank you very much.
And it pains me to say it, but Negron also really sweated it out over here.
Negroni came in here and was busting ass big time. He and I didn't want to say it to the folks, but he and were in my eye line working their asses off, you know, trying to concentrate to that.
And you held it together.
And Mike Rotman and Emily Goodwin and Jason McIntyre working on the outside of these walls. Ron with the Ron juice did his GLT. No, GTL. I always, well, anywho.
What's a GTL?
GTL would be gym, tanning, laundry.
Jay Mac did all those yesterday.
Yeah, he accomplished that as a perfect day. No crew
and
gag.
about wife beaters.
No crew gag apparently because we took the camera away from them in order to continue doing the show and been using it inside these hallowed walls here for the last couple of hours.
And they really should have. It was never on us.
It was what?
It was never on us. They should have totally kept it.
Yes, clearly.
I'm glad I sat in makeup for 45 minutes.
Hey! Thanks to Simey as well, our makeup artist extraordinaire, and Sammy for enduring the slide. Next week, Michael McKean. Is that right?
No,
Alison Brie.
Alison Brie.
Alison Brie will be a pre-tape, and then we'll do Michael McKean, followed by John Landis. And Jamie will be very, very happy. Check the schedule for upcoming guests beyond that, as we mentioned a few more at the top of the show.
Please tell Michael McKean he's one of my favorites. I never met the guy in my life, but I think he's just...
Someone put that in the record?
Yeah.
Michael McKean?
He's one of my favorites.
Yeah, no, he's got it all, too, and quite the musician himself.
Yeah. A real musician.
We had Chris Guest here who spoke about him, and someone else was here. Eugene Levy, I think, was saying very nice things. Everyone loves Michael McKean. Yeah, he's the real deal. So, and also to the Binions for that wonderful tribute, homage video that in one moment is entertaining and scary to us at the same time.
Don't they know any little boys they can get to play me? I mean, honestly.
That's the challenge. Do they not know? Well, you heard them. Until next week, and as always, get out of my face.